All right, good morning. It is not the 20th. It is definitely December 22nd, just a few days away from Christmas. And, well, the Lions just gave every Lions fan a giant lump of coal. So the first thing that I want to say, man, is, look, I apologize on behalf of this football team. I really don't know what else to say. We lost. We put ourselves in a rough spot. And it got a lot rougher last night. There's a few things to take away from this game that are not going to settle well with fans. I don't care if it's the defensive line, secondary, offensive line, offensive play calling, just about anything and everything. The refs, the end of the game, again, another wild catastrophe. But did they get it right? Yeah, they did. But should they have called it that way? Maybe not. Hell of a play by St. Brown. I mean, that's what you're asking your leaders to do, right? To be awake in those moments as you're going down to the ground and you flip that ball to Jared Goff, and Jared Goff put this team on his back and landed on his back in the end zone for what would have been the game-sealing touchdown. A lot went wrong in this game. I'm sure a lot of it we'll talk about this morning here on the Rise and Grind Morning Show. A lot of comments came in last night to the mailbag. There's no way I'm going to be able to get to all of them, so we will be doing gripes and hype. We'll get to a couple of evening or afternoon shows this week as we head into Christmas break. The Lions still have a chance to make the 7th seed, and it looks like the Bears are going to be taking the NFC North. And I think that is probably the dagger that hurts the most. We can make all the excuses we want. Easy schedule. Absolutely. Playing teams at the right time. Yep. The Bears have gotten extremely lucky. But let me ask you a question. Didn't the Lions get the same thing? Didn't we go through the same opportunity? Because that's what's going to be said. Well, the Lions played teams at the right time. The Lions got lucky at the right time. The Lions had easier schedules when they were winning the NFC North division. Okay. But they were also dominant on offense. Completely dominant. And you know what the difference is between this 2023 team and the 2023 team and the 25 team on offense? Not much. Not much. There's been a lot of talk about the play calling with Dan Campbell. You guys do realize that the Lions offense is still at the tops of the league? Again, would have put up about 30 points last night. Should have put up more. But in games where you're in a tight game, you're expecting your defense to stand up. The difference is not allowing 20 points per game. If you go back to the Lions schedule, I'm going to start here. If you go to the Lions schedule, because this is a big marker for me, has been something that we follow, something that we talk about often. What is the most important thing that an NFL team can have? It's not a defensive line. It's not a pass rush. No. It's a team that can stop other teams from scoring, and that requires 11 players and good scheme. If you go back through the Lions schedule this year, let's see how many games they would have won had their defense held the opponent to 20 points or less. We'll start right with week 1. Well, had the Lions held the Packers to 20 points, they still lose that game. Okay, so there's 1. We mopped the floor with the Bears in week 2. We beat the Ravens in week 3. We beat the Browns in week 4. We beat the Bengals in week 5. Had we held the Chiefs to 20 points, we would have lost that game too. We only put up 17, so we're 0-2 on that method. We beat the Bucks. Well, had we held the Vikings to 20 points or less, we win that football game. That is an extra win now. That's 1-2 on this method. We beat the Commanders. Had we beat the Eagles, well, neither team scored more than 20. Rule doesn't really apply. Matter of fact, you could probably go back to. Well, let me go back. Hold on. Let me go back to. Chiefs game doesn't really apply. So the Eagles game doesn't apply. No one scored more than 20. Okay, what other game did we lose? We lost to the Packers. Had we held them to 20 points or less, the Lions put up 24. So you're now 2-2, utilizing the 20 or less method. Had we held the Rams to less than 20, we win that football game. Lions have 3 more wins in their win column. Had we held the Steelers to 20 points or less, that is another win in the win column. That is an additional 4 wins for the Lions this season, and that is the NFC North, and that is the 1 seed. I know what I'm talking about when it comes to statistics and analytics and things that matter within the NFL, things that I have consistently, persistently been on top of, things that I have gone back for years and years and years and years and years and scaled it, measured it, flipped it upside down. Could it be wrong ever? And honestly, it can't. Now, about 10 years ago, that number would have been closer to 17 points per game. About the time that Glover Quinn was playing for Detroit, that was the marker that he gave me. 17 points per game. You hold an offense to 17 points per game, you're going to win football games. There's no reason why your team can't put up at least 3 touchdowns in a game, right? That hasn't changed much, besides the fact that now this is an offensive-driven league. The NFL changed all the rules. They opened everything up over the middle, and that is why this Lions team should be winning a lot of football games. The problem is the defense. I'm sorry. You can't, it's not Dan and play calling, even though I don't like some of his play calls. I'm adamant about that. Every play caller has bad play calls. Ben Johnson had stupid play calls more than a handful of times in a game. Washington comes to mind. Plenty of games just stall out. You know what? I warned y'all last week that the Steelers had an amazing interior defensive line, that running the ball through the middle or at all period was going to be a problem. Montgomery was not going to save us in this game. He hasn't saved us all season. If Jahmyr Gibbs couldn't get going, we were not going to win this game. The stats this year are defining. Anytime Jahmyr Gibbs has a good game, the Lions win. Lions couldn't get him going. Okay, so what are the crux to the problem, right? What is the crux to the problem? What is our issue? Why are we so up and down? And now the Lions have lost 2 games for the first time in almost 3 years. So that one little glimmer of hope that Lions attach themselves to after a loss, it's gone. It's done. We have to start over now and hope that we don't lose the next 2 games. So what's the real problem as to why the Lions can't win football games? Has been the defense. It's consistently been the defense. For the last 2 seasons, the Lions have also had the most injuries of any team on defense. Is that an excuse? No. It's a reality. And the sooner that you are willing to accept the truth, the facts, and the transparency about this football team, the sooner you're going to begin to realize that this team is way closer than it is further away from winning a Super Bowl. Last year, a lot of us were saying, man, if we could have just stayed healthy. If we were this healthy last year, playing the way that we were playing last year, we're beating the Commanders. And we have an opportunity to go win a Super Bowl. Unfortunately, we are not playing the way that we were playing last year. I firmly believe that the coordinators that left were not the whole issue. Honestly, I feel the substance of the matter is the personnel that we lost. The assistant coaches. The guys that are underneath the offensive and defensive coordinator. Those are the guys that were helping Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson do their job week in and week out. Those are the guys and girls that we're helping these players get ready in all of their individual workrooms and, breakout rooms and in all their film studies and individual drills. Those are the individuals that I feel was the bigger loss for this team than any player or any coordinator. So no, I'm not looking to fire Calvin Shepard. Yeah, Johnny Mo, see you later, bye. Didn't work out. I blame that on Dan Campbell. But Dan Campbell has still led one of the most powerful offenses in the league. Matter of fact, let me just go to Fox Sports offensive rankings. This hasn't been updated in a couple of days. But as of last week, the Lions were the fourth most powerful offense in the league. 379.9 yards per game. Fourth, behind the Bills, the Rams, and the Cowboys. Cowboys have the number one offense in the league. They still suck. Their defense is trash. The Lions have put up 52 touchdowns this season. 52. The Bears are fifth. They've put up 40. 12 TDs less than the Lions. 12. So to say that Ben Johnson is a better coach, to say that Ben Johnson has a better offense, it's not true. 12 less TDs. 100 points. So what's the issue? It's not Dan. It's not the offense. There's pieces and parts to each side of this team that are the issue. The offensive line has gone through another dozen or so offensive line formations, it seems like, this season. Continuity is a factor. Anytime that you can't have the same style of an offensive lineman blocking in front of your running backs, it is going to encumber your running backs. There's something that's called tempo with an offensive line, right? Timing with an offensive line. And believe it or not, last night when I tweeted out, maybe I put it in the Blue Zone chat, that David Montgomery's patience might have been the factor last night in the run game, but it didn't end up working out. And what I mean by his patience, and I know I'm going to jump around a little bit, but what I mean by his patience is this. When you have different offensive linemen in there that are not starting consistently, that throws off your running back's timing. The offensive line tempo and their timing to get to their blocks, the guard pulling to get to the second level or sealing off the edge on the other side, that timing dictates what your running back should see and where the hole is opening and developing and when they hit it. So when you have multiple offensive linemen out throughout the season, these running backs have to relearn tempo and timing every game. And it may take a quarter or two before that happens. And some games it may not happen. Last night didn't happen at all. But again, I would say that was more or less of the offense as it was the Steelers' defense. They manhandled our offensive line. They filled gaps intelligently. Mike Tomlin has always been a defensive genius. More so than an offensive guy, he is a defensive coach. He had that defense ready for what we were going to be able to throw at them on the ground. Dan Campbell, for whatever reason, was having Jared Goff hold the frickin' football instead of getting the ball out quick. One of my bigger keys last week was get the damn ball out quick. You can't settle against that defense. And they do have some pretty good DBs. Jared Goff is not at fault for this season. There ain't no way I'd want a different quarterback. I get sick of seeing the statement that Jared Goff needs a top 5 offensive line to win football games. It is so stale. It is so old and so untrue, but yet true at the same time. Because why? Every quarterback needs a top offensive line to win football games. Bo Nix, number 1 offensive line in the league. Matthew Stafford, number 2 offensive line in the league. Caleb Williams, number 3 offensive line in the league. Josh Allen, number 4 offensive line in the league. Brock Purdy, number 5 offensive line. Daniel Jones, number 6. The anomaly here are the Commanders because they're trash this year at number 7. The Steelers, Aaron Rodgers, number 8. The Giants, they actually play pretty great when they're not injured, number 9. The Seahawks, second best team in the league right now, number 10. Sam Darnold. The Eagles with Jalen Hurts, number 11. The Ravens with Lamar Jackson, not a great team this year, number 12. How about the Patriots? They're at 13, but they have 3 major injuries all on the left side of their line right now. Garrett Bradbury, Jared Wilson, and veteran Lowe. What's going on there? Right? Notice I haven't said the Lions yet. Lions are 15th. And our starting guard at times has been Tristan Colon or Miles Frazier, who played 1 game now in his entire life before, 2 weeks ago in the NFL. It's maddening to me to hear these types of things when I just stated some of the best teams in the league, the best teams in the league, all have a top 10 offensive line, and the majority of them top 5. I know that the smart fans don't believe that. I know that the fans that really understand football don't believe that. They believe that you need a top-tier offensive line, absolutely. But they don't believe that that's the only reason why Jared Goff is winning, or when he's winning. Because Jared Goff has won, if you haven't checked, over the last 3.5 seasons, he's had over 30 different offensive line formations. That is not cohesion. That is not consistency. So how is he able to continue to win? Make your argument make sense, as opposed to just throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what fan is going to gobble it up and then believe in it. Unfortunately, we live in an era today that social media has created a bunch of gullible, naive people. Gullible and naive. I don't care if it's politics or Bigfoot. We are gullible and naive now because of social media. Everything you read online must be the truth. Right? Forget the people that do the work. Forget the people that actually know the sport. Forget the people that have coached the sport, studied the sport, gone to school for the sport. Forget all those people because they don't know what they're talking about. But do me a favor and forget the narrative drivers, because the narrative drivers are trying to sell you clicks. That's all they're doing. They're trying to sell you advertising. All right, my little rant's kind of over. Good morning to everybody. We're going to talk about what happened last night. We're going to bring in Dan Campbell this morning. I haven't even heard what he said. Honestly, I was doing my short little live in the vehicle last night before we really hit the highway. And I didn't want to hear it. I haven't heard it. I could only imagine what he said. Yeah, am I fully happy with the way that this team has played? No. Not even close. But I'm going to say it again. We are closer now than we've ever been before. The Brad Holmes narrative. This one just angers me. Not calling out anybody independently. That's not what I'm about. Okay? I'm not. What I'm going to say is what I would say to the wall. Okay? It's what I would say in a vacuum. It's what I said as I'm leaving Ford Field to random fans that are talking, running their mouth, and I just pipe up and turn around and say, confront them and say, okay, sell me. Explain it. You said something. Now make it make sense. Takes a lot of balls to do that after people are all liquored up, right? I don't care. I don't care one bit. I'm sure Megan was a little worried. But I'll challenge anybody anywhere on their ideas. Because that's what makes America great. that we can all have our opinions because we have something called the First Amendment. And so I appreciate all of your opinions this morning. Ma, just make sure this morning we just let people rant, man. I don't want to see people attacking each other, but just let people go. Let them rant. It's all good. It's all good today. Mods, I can't thank you guys enough for all the work that you've done this year. It really helped us build a great community here. So, the Brad Holmes narrative. Oh my God, we drafted Manu. I kept hearing that as I'm walking to the parking garage. Why would Brad Holmes draft Manu? Is Manu our replacement at left tackle? He's only played one game, and in the game he played, he didn't look good. And I'm thinking to myself, is this really where we're going? Oh my God, we drafted Broderick Martin. He played a handful of snaps. He didn't turn out. Oh my God, the last two drafts, nobody's working out. Terrion Arnold hasn't played. Dennis Rakestraw really hasn't played. And then the laundry list of complaints. Who did we really draft? Well, I need you guys to think about something for a moment. The last two drafts, really the last one draft in 2025, how many spots were open on the roster? Now, I get it. We can have the conversation someday that, well, you could have drafted guys that maybe would have unseated others. Okay, Khalif Raymond was that guy. I wanted him gone. Y'all hated me for that. I wanted Leaf off the team. I love what he's all about. I love that he's a team guy. But you can see a huge difference between TK85 and Leaf running the football on kickoffs. Yep, Leaf made a great catch last night. He's made, 3 catches all season that were great? That's it. That's not enough for me. It's not enough for me. I don't think that keeping Khalif Raymond was the answer. Glue guy, sure. Knows your stuff, sure. It's time to move on. But he's not why we lost the season either. So if you're drafting guys to replace guys, it would have been Khalif Raymond on offense. If you're drafting guys to replace guys, who else would it have been on this offense? Okay, should the Lions have drafted a left tackle in this draft and gotten rid of Taylor Decker that they just signed to a contract? Well, that's not happening. You're going to eat a bunch of $20, $30 million in dead cap? Maybe trade Taylor Decker? That could have worked. You could have traded him. But if you think that you're going to win a Super Bowl, remember, we're in the Super Bowl window. You can't get rid of players that know what you're all about. You can't get rid of players that are going to keep that locker room together. You can't get rid of players that have a ton of experience and can play at a high level. Right? Or am I just stupid? You can't get rid of players like that, can you? You can't get rid of players that are really good at what they do. Okay, so Taylor Decker's off the table now. There's no way that you would have traded Taylor Decker or drafted a left tackle. But hindsight tells us that we should have had 6 more left tackles ready to go this year. And 6 more guards. They were starters. They were all available at the trade deadline, right? All of them. Come on, people. Like, can we seriously be intelligent for a moment? Who was available at the trade deadline? Tell me one player that was available that is better than the play that we've had so far out of the offensive line. Because Jared Goff had plenty of time last night for the majority of the game. I think he just held on to the ball a little bit because the guys were guarded. He had no one to go to. And maybe the play calling wasn't the greatest. And Jared Goff should have been rolling out last night like Aaron Rodgers was. Why do you think Aaron Rodgers was able to avoid the pass rush or able to avoid our defensive line as a whole? Because Mike Tomlin knows, dude, you're 50,000 years old. I got to get you rolling out away from the defensive line to get the ball downfield. So going up against a great defensive line, Dan Campbell doesn't have Jared Goff rolling out. Stupidest mistake ever. But sticking with the offensive line, who would we have gotten? Tell me. Who? Where could we have brought in a guard at the trade deadline? I want to know answers. I want butts. That's what I want. I want butts. Someone give me some butts here. Come on. I'm waiting. Because I know a lot of you in this chat have said it already. I'm waiting. Tell me the names. And then while you're doing that, while you're telling me the names, do me another favor. Tell me who you're losing, because you're going to give up a bunch of draft picks. Who you're not drafting next year because your chief complaint is about Brad's drafting. Well, then forget it. He won't draft. He's just going to give away all of his picks. Okay, so let's do that. We're going to give away all of our picks. And I'm still waiting for this magical horse to come riding into Detroit. That was an all-pro left guard or an all-pro center. When you find out, let me know. Please email me at mailbag@rockdown.com, or better yet, call in or come on the show and let's have a conversation. Because there's no names that exist. None. You would have had to have done it in free agency. Who in free agency were we thinking was a problem? Because if I remember correctly, all of you, and I'm not speaking to you in the chat, everybody listening later, everybody listening now, we're saying that Mahogany was this amazing left guard. Oh my God, he was graded out at an 88 last year, was the best left guard in the league and best left guard for the line. He's our starter. Okay, Brad heard you then, kept Mahogany in at starter. You drafted Tate Ratledge in the second round, who's going to be an all-pro right guard at some point. I do not believe he's going to be our center. And if he is our center next year, he's going to have to start working all offseason at being a center. But I don't think he's going to be our center. I think that would be a complete failure to remove him at right guard and not go out and strengthen your offensive line and bring in an offensive center in this draft, because there's an amazing one. There's a couple of them. And Brad's going to have to F them picks to go get the guy. That's the move that we need. We need Ragnow's replacement. He's there. And if Brad doesn't go get him, then that'll be when I climb on Brad's back and I'll get a little pissed off about it. Because the only way that you're going to fix this offensive line is you're either going to bring in an all-pro that is locked up for 3 years, not one, and you draft somebody. You're going to have to do both. But I heard everybody saying how great Frazier was going to be, how great Mahogany already was. Yep, we were suspect about Graham Glasgow. He was never going to be the full answer at center. He's a stopgap. But there was nobody else better. Even if Glasgow is this 32nd center in the league, there's nobody else better at 33 or later on any roster that is better than Graham Glasgow. So no trades would have happened. No plucking anybody off a practice squad. You would have had to have known that Frank Ragnow was going to retire in February or March, and you would have had to done something in the draft. And it is possible that Tate Ratledge is your center. Again, I think that's a grave mistake. He said himself, wasn't working out, doesn't like it, doesn't want to be a center. Leave the dude alone. Leave him the hell alone. Let him be a right guard. So I'm still waiting for these names. Still waiting. From last year, who are you bringing in on June 2nd, after free agency, after the draft, after OTAs, before training camp? What's that name? Trade deadline. What's that name? Tell me a team in the league. It's just like edge rusher. Tell me a team in the league that is willing to give up their number one center. If you guys really believe that stuff is possible, you don't know the league. You really don't. Look at how many trades really go on every year. A handful on average. Early 2010s, 2013 to 2016, the NFL averaged 4.5 trades per season. 2017 to 2018, 8.5 trades per season. The last few seasons, 2019 to 2022, 14 trades per season. 2025 was our first record ever with 20 plus trades in a season, 22 in total in-season trades. That never happens because that's a record. But in-season doesn't mean trade deadline. That's the entire season. Because there was a flurry of trades way before the trade deadline. Go back and look at all the trade deadline. Every move since 2025 is here, according to the NFL. I'll put that in the chat. There's all the trades from last year. And I'll do some workup. And I'll let you know. But on average, if you get 4 trades at the trade deadline, maybe 5 or 6, and most of the time you're not talking huge names. You have a few. Tell me what team was going to trade their center when, if you look at the league this year and you look at the records around that time of the season, a lot of teams were still in this. A lot of teams were 1 game away. You had 3 teams in almost every division that were vying for a spot. Why on earth are they going to give away their players? You have to be numb to think that teams are just going to give away their teams or give away their players. Okay, so who were the worst teams at that time? The Saints, the Jets. Who else? You want the Jets center? You want the Dolphins center? How about the Browns? How about the Titans? The Raiders? Those are your options in the AFC. The Jets, the Browns, the Titans, and the Raiders. You know the Chiefs aren't giving anybody up. You know the Colts weren't giving anybody up. They were still in it. Matter of fact, the AFC South, every team but the Titans was still in it. Still in it now. The Bengals, they were still in it. The Ravens, even though their records are not great right now, they're all still in it. You know what I don't hear this morning? It's going to be a name that is going to shock you, or maybe not. Okay, at the trade deadline, do you think the Cowboys are going to give up their center? How about Washington? The Commanders, they're going to give up the center? No. How about the Giants? The Vikings? Realistically, the Saints and the Cardinals, the Jets, the Raiders, the Titans, and the Browns. Those are the 6 teams you want to pull a center from? Are any of them any good? I don't even know who their center is. You know, Linderbaum will be a free agent, and more than likely, at 25 years old, he's going to resign. But speaking of the Ravens, you know the name I don't hear right now? Lions should have brought in Lamar Jackson. Oh, that would have fixed everything 3 years ago. He was the answer. The Ravens are 7-8. They have a worse record than the Lions right now. But you know what? Every team that is good, every team that is great can have a stumble of a season. Right? The Lions just got good. And I tried to warn everybody for the last many seasons when I said it's going to take 4 drafts for this team to actually start to put something together. And 9-8 finish, to 2022, I think that the sun got a lot brighter. And in 2023, the improbable happens. The improbable, very similar to the Bears season. You're not playing a high caliber schedule. I mean, it looked like a high caliber schedule, but it really wasn't. And at, how the Lions finished that season and how they were able to win some football games, we We got somewhere way earlier than expected. Yeah, Dan will come to the mic and tell you they expected it. Brad will come to the mic and tell you they expected it. They did. We had a good team. But then we hear fans say, well, that was our only window. No. The team was just getting built. The players that we have from that squad are still here and still young. And Jared Goff at 30 years old can play another 15 years. Not that he's going to, but he signed for the next several. The Lions window is wide open if you believe in a window. It's wide open. The difference right now is that the window cleaners just cleaned all the windows. And just like a bird, the Lions just ran into the window head first and knocked themselves out. It's been a dizzy kind of season. That bird that you thought was dead laying on the ground gets up and flies away 5 minutes later. And that's exactly what the Lions are going to do in 2026. They're going to get up off the ground and they're going to fly away with it. The team is very deep, extremely deep. Now let's get into the game. Let's get into the game last night. Let's talk about what happened. Let me take a quick break. Be right back. Reset my voice here. Looks like my picture's all screwed up too. It's going to be one of those days, y'all. It's going to be one of those days. Be right back.
Yeah. On my phone was Peyton Manning. He said, Jeff, I feel your pain. Will you join me in exorcising the curse of Bobby Lane? Just like that, we started winning. Just like that, we were playoff bound. Just like that, way up in heaven, Bobby Lane turned around. Say goodbye to all that sorrow. Say goodbye to all that pain. Say goodbye to the same old lion and the curse of Bobby Lane. Everybody say goodbye to all that sorrow. Say goodbye to all that pain. Say goodbye to the same old life and the curse of Bobby Lane.
Pressured by Hutchinson, he goes down again.
Got to get my ISO turned up a little bit. The color's way off today. Not sure why. Not sure why. Is what it is. Maybe add a little light here. All right. Good morning. Welcome into the Rise Grind Morning Show. It is 9:27 a.m. Let's talk about what happened last night. I guess, in the chat, let me know, how much were the refs a problem in this game? Let's pull it up. Were the refs a problem? Very simple. Yes or no? Were the refs a problem in this game? To end the game, the refs did get it right. But was it the right call? I heard this all night, the home team, and you're calling offensive pass interference not once, but twice. This wouldn't have happened to any other team. Yeah, you're probably right. The pick on Tesla, that got called earlier on DJ Reed. Remember when DJ Reed got laid out, I think it was by Washington over the middle. They took away that touchdown to DK Metcalf. So they did call it earlier. They set a precedent with it. I don't agree that it was a pick play. I've gone back and looked at the play. Definitely wasn't like DJ Reed's play. But I do believe that the refs, in my opinion, a little too aggressive maybe for a game that had a lot of implications, a lot on the line for both teams, honestly. Before I break down some of the stats, and I did take a brief moment this morning to clip some video, but I put it in still images. I want to show you what happened on one of the long runs by Pittsburgh. And the reason why I'm asking about the refs is because the refs missed multiple calls on one play. And it is so egregious. So egregious. I have a hard time believing that the NFL is not complicit. The over-under yesterday, what was it, 7.5? The over-under was 51.5. So they hit the over by half a point. And then the favorite was 7.5? I think the Lions are favored by. And they lose by 5. So Vegas made out like a bandit. And last night I took a picture, which I posted on my Twitter. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. Because it just sickens me. It really just sickens me. When I've never noticed this before, because I sat in the 243 section last night. I haven't sat up there in a long time. Matter of fact, I think I've sat up there only one other time this season. Yeah, it was one other time. It was earlier in the season. But I happened to look behind me last night. For whatever reason. I don't know why I was looking up or looking behind me. But I did. And I noticed something. Something that I've never seen before. And I got a stomachache from it. And honestly, I'm more disappointed in the Lions organization for allowing this to happen. You tell me, how disappointed are you in this? That is, so 243 is dead nuts center goalpost. That's where my seat is. Row 5, seat 11. And I look up to my left, and there's BetMGM along the wall, up above the third section there, corner of the end zone, right? So if you're looking at that area, I don't know which section that is, but it's corner of the end zone. And so I'm looking at this, and I'm like, wow. The Lions Ford Field is owned by BetMGM. The NFL is owned by BetMGM and all of the other betting sites. That's why when, I don't get a lot of ad reads in that. I got the partnership with the Believe Network, and I haven't done anything because I quite simply told them I didn't want to do any betting. In the very beginning, I was open to it. And I use DraftKings when I do my weekly picks, which I haven't put out this week, but I go in and I do that just to secure the picks. If I actually had more time, then I would just write the article ahead of time. But instead, what I do is I go on DraftKings and I pick my teams. I bet like 50 cents just to lock it in so that, there's a date, there's a time. So it's all on the up and up, right? Because when I write my article after the fact, at least it's time and date stamped. That's really why I do it. I don't bet on games. I don't. I screw around and have fun. I'll do like 16 leg parlays every week, which I do. And I'll screw around with some other things, but I'm not out there putting, $100 on this or $20 on that or $10. I just won't do it. I think it's, for me, someone that wants the game to be, I don't know, without compromise. I feel like betting compromises the sport. That's why I've really never been a big proponent to even talk about it a whole lot. But when I saw this last night, man, was I disappointed. Really disappointed. I think that it's really it's really a problem. I see Fire Shepherd in the chat. Yeah, that's probably the laziest take I've ever heard. Shep is not 100% to blame here. But I do want to bring in this video, snippets of images that I made this morning. I just need to figure out where the hell I put it. Here we go. Okay, so this is one of the big runs from last night. So you want to talk about a complete defensive breakdown. As I'm watching it, and I say, I've never seen a running back just walk through the defense like that, ever, for the Lions. Like, has hardly ever happened. Okay? So, this is why. Let me pause this. Let's start with the block in the back on Jack Campbell. So Jack starts to fit his run gap, okay? And that, I don't know who's blocking him. I didn't take enough time to write down names. But Jack's in front of him. And all of a sudden, Jack ends up on the ground. He dives at his legs. But what you'll notice here is that offensive lineman's hand extends into the back of Jack Campbell. He pushes him forward. Not called. So Jack at that point is diving and misses the legs by like half a foot. Not called. And if I would have zoomed out a little bit, there is literally a ref just south of that 50-yard line, kind of in the middle, watching all this happen. Well, as this continues, you're going to see more. Okay? The block in the back on Anzalone. Anzalone's back is turned to this offensive lineman, and his arms are blocking Anzalone in the back. Right next to each other, right in front of where the runner's going, right in front of the refs. You've got a sideline judge right there at the 45-yard line. And you got a ref in the back that's behind Aaron Rodgers. And not one of them call it? Not one. Oh, it gets worse. Oh, it gets worse. Next slide, please. Oh, the hold on Davenport. Now, I know it's probably a little tough to see here, but that offensive lineman's arms are wrapped around Davenport. He's literally hugging Davenport. Now, if I remember correctly, didn't Penei Sewell just get called for that last game? He got called for holding on a run. There was a big run, I believe, by Jahmyr Gibbs, and he got called for holding. Same kind of thing. Difference was it happened more towards the line. This is kind of away from the play, but that's still a hold. Davenport couldn't get free. Well, I'll keep rolling for a minute here. And look, this play, you can see the running back is in the middle. Jack Campbell's now on the ground, If you look north of the red arrow, where number 71 is, where Tyleek Williams is, Jack is on the ground because he was pushed and then dove. But look at Davenport. He is doing everything he can to get off of that offensive lineman who's now holding his dingle. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to say something else, but look at his hand. He's grabbing his schlong. What kind of shit is that? Not called. Dude has his junk grabbed, bear hugged, not called. So 3 penalties on one play on a major touchdown that changes the game, and not one ref threw a flag. So I really thought to myself last night, I'm like, there is just no way. I've never seen our defense, at least in a while, give up a run play like that. And for it to happen twice, man, something wasn't right. Jack to miss a tackle, I mean, he's got that dude lined up in his sights. For Jack to miss an open tackle in a tight situation, that didn't make any sense to me at all. Well, now the video and the tape. This is why I do tape review. Because all of the fans are talking about right now how, our pass rush is a problem or this is a problem. Well, defensive line was not a problem. Matter of fact, they had that dude bottled up. The problem was the 3 penalties that were not called. That's the problem. That's the problem. Let's see if I can fix something real quick here. Try to get some of this color off my face. All red. My blood pressure's probably up today, but I'm not pink usually. It's just everything, the camera's off. Yeah, so DK and the fan, man. I don't understand this one either. Quite simply, the bullshit excuse that we get from the league is, and again, I don't know how much of this is accurate or true because someone mentioned it. I don't know who mentioned it exactly, but someone mentioned it last night that the league said, well, if there was no flag on the field, they can't intervene. Okay. Well, if they can't intervene, who can? Who else can? It's your league. And this happened in the first half. I think it was either the first quarter or I don't think it was before the game. But DK's over there talking to a fan and then punches the dude in the face. If DK Metcalf is not brought up on charges, if I'm that fan, I'm in court today. I'm filing charges. That'll be an easy suit. That's a slam dunk. Cash in your check, buddy. Go get it. Because if you don't, and you allow them to get away with it, because it's the principle. It's not the money. It's the principle of the matter. Hell, you could probably end up suing the Lions at this point. Not that I want you to, but I don't know, let a lawyer figure that out. Shouldn't have happened. But the fact that the NFL allegedly said that they can't get involved because there was no flag on the field? Come on, man. What was hilarious to me, though, is then later, here, let me go back. The NFL response was supposedly this. There was no flag on the field, so New York cannot weigh in with regard to a potential disqualification. My answer, call the police then. right? And then later on, you see injured, better call Sam or call Sam flying across the billboard, that goes around the stadium. I'm like, how fitting is that? So Megan took a picture of that, shared it to me. And then later on, you see this that always comes up throughout the game. I was like, man, I think everybody in the league or everybody in the stadium should just scan this and send it to the Lions. Code of conduct and evacuation information. But in here, you can text the Lions if something's going on in your section. Everyone should have done that last night and just bombarded them. That's what I would have done. It happened in front of a police officer too? Jeez. Oh, we know New York saw it. We know they did. If this was said, I don't remember who said it, but they said, if I was that fan, I would have fallen over the guardrail after getting hit. I would have taken a broken shoulder, something, and made it way worse. It reminds me of going to a store and drop some glass and slip on the water or whatever. That's, Better Call Saul, right? Better Call Saul. Love that show back in the day. Love that show. All right, let me get into some insights of the game, man. So, would you guys be surprised last night that the Lions did exactly what I was hoping that they were going to do? How long have I been saying, get rid of the single man, go to zone? And what looked like the Lions actually didn't play well in zone, they really did. They actually played pretty well. Matter of fact, they played so well, in fact, that despite entering the game leading the NFL in man coverage usage at 44.4%, the Lions flipped to zone last night. And it worked, but it didn't fix all of our problems. The Lions leaned heavily towards zone coverage in this matchup, using it on 37 of 45 dropbacks last night, 82.2%, a season high. The Lions also aligned with two high safeties on 53 of 70 plays last night, 75.7%, another season high. And get this, the Lions allowed just 4.5 yards per play and a 27% success rate in zone coverage. You compare it to a season high 13.4 yards per play and an 85.7% success rate when they play man coverage. But you know what I get from people? I get comments that say, Will, you don't know anything. You get about 0.01% of everything that you say right. Well, here's your receipts once again. I've been asking for zone for a long time because I've said it and said it and said it. You cannot play like you have safeties in the game anymore. You really haven't been able to play like you have safeties in the game when Kirby Joseph hasn't been in the lineup. Brian Branch is great, but everybody else that we have is not enough. Thomas Harper was not the answer. Not long term. He's a stopgap. But he's not a long-term answer. He's just not. So the zone scheme worked last night. So what fell apart? Where did the Lions really fall apart? Well, here's one of the biggest numbers that fell apart for me, and for the Lions. Aaron Rodgers picked up 9 first down conversions on 3rd and 4th down. So you play great on 1st and 2nd down, and then you let everything go on 3rd down. That can't happen. You have to tighten up. And you know what? I'm going to have to go back and watch the film because I haven't been able to finish it. I'm going to say that a lot of those completions, or many of those completions, I think the Lions went back to man. I don't know how that makes any sense. You're playing zone. It's working. Why would you go to man when you really need a defensive stop? When you've been stopping them in zone? Why would you go to your weakest link? To me, that's just Calvin Shepard stupidity. Stupidity. You should have stuck in zone. And you know what? If they beat you, at least then you know that they beat you. They beat you the way that you were playing them the best. But you went to man. Let me read the numbers again. The Lions let up 13.4 yards per play, an 85.7% success rate in man coverage. That's without Terry and Arnold. That was without DJ Reed for a while. That's without Kirby Joseph since week 6. And it's without Brian Branch for the last, 3 weeks now? 4 weeks? Whatever it's been, 3 weeks? But combined, when we stay in man coverage with a single high safety, we get burned. When we have our number ones in the game, it's better, but it's far from perfect. If the Lions would play man and zone at 50-50, clip, or even 60-40, 60 zone, 40 man, I think that we're a much better defense. I don't know why this is that difficult to figure out. Man, I would be a Moneyball type of DC or offensive coordinator or GM or coach. I would lean heavily into the stats and the analytics and what they're telling me, the probabilities. I would have quants all over the place. And I went through that this last year, and I went around the league and I said, these are the assistants that they have on each team. And there was several teams that have like 4 or 5 quantitative, geniuses that know analytics the best. And those are the teams that are winning because they have some really smart. It's like having, quants that do math for you in, high level math. When you're, in a stock exchange, when you're working for a stockbroker, you need guys that are extremely smart. Quants are what you need in football now, just like you need in baseball. So 85.7% success rate when playing man. 13.4 yards per play. Now the 85.7% success rate is bad. That means the offense is able to complete 85.7% of their plays. And last night, again, the Lions dropped all the way down to 4.5 yards per play and a 27% success rate in zone. So they cut by 2/3 how bad they were playing before just by going to man or by going to zone. They were playing that much better. And then you go to single high and third down and you give it all up. Just stupid. Just stupid. Jim Jackson says he can't stay long today. Very disappointed again that we have a great roster, but just can't get it done. Was it all Ben? AG? My faith has been tested for this season. I'm with you, Jim, man. And again, I apologize on behalf of the Lions' stupidity. Look, do we have the right roster? Yeah, we do. But do we have the right roster right now at this time of the season? No, we don't. Do we have the right coaches? Yes, we do. Outside of offensive coordinator and maybe some of our assistants that aren't working out, there's going to be some change. We don't have Sam Laporta. We don't have Brock Wright. And we're still putting up the type of offense that we are. Those two are sorely missed last night. Those were the players that Jared Goff needed the most against the Steelers. The Steelers against tight ends has not been great this year, and the fact that they were out of this game, that allowed the Steelers to load that box and take away our run game. Jim Jackson also said in-game adjustments came too late. Defense never adjusted. Even when they went back to man, they still got beat. Yeah. Yep. And they got beat bad. Harp up. I'm not your question. Who said that, Will? It's not coming from us. you talking about the 0.01% comment? It was someone in one of the comments on a show. I think it was actually last night. I mean, I know what we do. I know what we do here. We just need more eyes and ears, man. That's all. There's nothing that I haven't said over the last 3 seasons that a lot of it has not come to fruition. All right, here's another comment that just came in from a Pittsburgh Steelers fan at Justin Walters 7953 17 minutes ago. Says, you're so full of it blaming a sports betting site. Well, I don't think I blamed a sports betting site. Well, I think what I blamed was the Detroit Lions for allowing their stadium to be bought, right, by MGM. And bought meaning selling advertising and allowing the fans to think it's okay. And anytime you sell advertising, maybe you feel, that you should give in to what they do. I don't know. I'm not saying that the Lions are doing that. But what I am saying is when shit stinks, it stinks. Right? If you smell some poop, there's probably some poop somewhere. I don't know. Justin, you might want to check your upper lip, buddy. Here's what he said. Weak-minded garbage. He says the calls were correct. I think I said that, didn't I? I said the call was correct last night at the end of the game. I said that. Here's what he said, though. Hutchinson couldn't handle a 4th-string tackle for Pittsburgh. The Steelers outgained your Lions by over 200 yards. I've been saying this, and I'm not even going to go deep off into Aiden today because I know that hurts people's feelings. But the fact that he was going up against a 4th-string tackle last night is really disappointing. That the sacks that he was involved in were a collapsing sack by the line. A couple of guys could have got there. Aiden got the sack. Great play. But then disappeared. It's what I've been saying all season. It's what I've been saying for 3 seasons. He pops up. Like the old pop weasel game. Pops up. And then it's like game's over. He disappears. I'm not saying it today, but I am. This guy's saying it. Steelers fan. So take it up with Justin Walters, 7953. Last night's fan reaction is where he posted it. So you can go get after him if you want to. A couple of comments that came in last night. Let me just kind of go through it. Will. Love Dan and Brad. This is a great question, by the way. Love Dan and Brad. Couple of thoughts. Do you think that Brad's better picking best player available, like early in the first couple of seasons where the cupboards were empty, with numerous high first and second round picks? Now later picks trying to fill needs. I even hate saying this, but do you think that Dan is a coach that can almost get you almost there, but never get you that Super Bowl, like Mike Tomlin? That is such a great question. And I can't say that a lot of fans don't share that same sentiment. I remember bringing it up earlier this year when I said, would you be accepting if the Lions went the next 15 years, being a plus 500 team, going to the playoffs and exiting the playoffs? Maybe you win a few here or there, but you never advance to a Super Bowl. And I think a lot of fans would say, yeah, that's great. That'll help kind of erase the bad memories of the last 60 years. But we still want a Super Bowl. And in Mike Tomlin's defense, he did win a Super Bowl. He won against the Arizona Cardinals back in 2009, and he went to a second Super Bowl where he lost to the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers in 2011. But since then, nothing for 16 seasons or 14 seasons. A perennial playoff team. that exits the, stage left after a game, maybe two, but never back to the Super Bowl. I don't know. I'll ask you guys. Let me end this first poll. Were the refs a problem? 55% say yes, 45% say no. 74 votes. Here's the next poll of the day. Would you be happy with 15 seasons plus 500? No, we'll do this. 15 seasons at 10-7 with 1 or 2 playoff wins in each. No Super Bowl. Matter of fact, it kind of brings me back to something I said a while back. Just a few weeks ago, actually. We were talking about Les Snead, Howie Roseman. When I said, if you look at their trajectory, when they came in, when they became the GMs of their teams, it took them about 7 seasons to win a Super Bowl. And during that span, both Howie and Les Snead missed the playoffs for multiple seasons in a row, or won one playoff game and then exited, or lost the wild card for multiple seasons and then popped up and won a Super Bowl. That could be this season. The Lions maybe don't make the playoffs and then pop up next year and win a Super Bowl. I don't believe the Lions as a number 7 seed can win the Super Bowl this year. I don't see it. If the Lions do get the 7 seed, I hope the Bears get the 2nd seed. And then I hope the Lions go and beat the Bears. And I don't even care what happens after that point. I really don't. I don't think that we have enough. We don't have a secondary. We'll see how that poll goes. We'll see how that poll goes. Let me try to answer this question, because this came from Rod Miller. That's why I put the poll up. That's a question from Rod. It's a great question. Brad Holmes picking early. Picking the best player available versus what need? I think if I'm going to infer here, picking best player available versus need, having numerous 1st and 2nd round picks versus picking later. Look, I think we can answer this pretty easily by saying Amon-Ra St. Brown. He wasn't an early pick. Derek Barnes. He wasn't an early pick. Now, I don't think that Derek Barnes is a world-class linebacker, but he's a high-end football player. 4th round pick. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 4th round pick. Penei Sewell, obviously, he hit that, correct. I don't know how you could miss. Aleem McNeil, 3rd round pick. Is Aleem McNeil a top 10 defensive tackle this year? Nope, he's not. I'm going to give him a little bit of grace because coming back from an injury like that, it's not easy. It's not easy. And the same can be said for Aiden Hutchinson. Maybe Aiden will have a better year next year. So in his first draft, the majority of the players that he brought in were selected after the 1st and 2nd round. He actually missed on Levi Onwuzurike. However, this was a great thought last night. Gentleman sitting to my right said, Brad selected Aleem McNeil after Levi. Think about that for a moment. Aleem McNeil was not better than Levi. And what we saw last year from Levi was the player that we expected him to be. a top 10 defensive tackle last season for a large part of the season. His first year really playing in the league at a high level because he played a majority of the season. After major back injury that failed, if Levi would have stayed healthy, this is a different defensive line. So there's that. We can't blame Brad for injuries, though. We can't. You just can't. You cannot blame Brad for Levi Onwuzurike having a back injury. But Penei Sewell, first round, but Ali McNeil, Amon-Ra, Derek Barnes, all third and fourth round picks. So he hit 3 out of the first draft. Malcolm Rodriguez was a 6th round pick. High-end backup, was a starter immediately because the Lions didn't have anybody. It's a great pickup. Great vision on that player. Kirby Joseph was a 3rd round pick. So again, not drafted in the 1st or 2nd round. Kirby was a great pickup, but we can't blame Brad for Kirby not having cartilage in his knee. Where we can blame Brad is how the F did you miss Kirby not having cartilage in his knee before you signed him to a mega deal? That's what I don't get. That's what I don't get. Davenport was not drafted. Lucian Stanza, whatever the hell your name is. Davenport was not drafted, and Davenport has been just fine. He's been just fine. You go look around the league and you tell me how many teams have players that don't get injured. Do me that favor. Stop listening to idiots. That's probably your first problem. You listen to idiots that don't know football. Is Davenport a world beater? Not this year. But I think I just identified the big-time hold on him couldn't affect the play. There's a lot of holds on the defensive line that aren't called. What people mistake Davenport for is this guy that's supposed to just go get you a bunch of sacks. That's not what the big end does on this defense. The big end sets the edge. The big end helps against the run game. And Davenport's run defense is extremely good. That's what he's brought in to do. Set the edge, close that box on the run game so that your linebackers and other defensive linemen can then go do their job. That is what Davenport is brought in to do. Nothing else. When he gets sacks, but he's a big end. He's not your speed end. It's a big difference there. Iffy Mela Fake Woo. You know, it's funny. Someone told me last night, why did we get rid of Iffy? Well, I think Iffy had too many broken fingernails. So anyway, year 2 for Brad Holmes. Again, he hit on Malcolm Rodriguez. I firmly believe that James Houston was a good pickup that Aaron Glenn ruined because he's playing great in Dallas. Playing great. When you let him be who he's supposed to be, he's playing great. It was a good pickup. 6th round pick. And let me throw this at y'all too. I think fans get lost in the sauce that in the first 2 seasons of Brad's picking that our 5th, 6th, and 7th rounders were starting. And so then they think that that's supposed to happen every year. No. We also haven't had success in 60 years. And so now you're thinking that every pick is supposed to be successful. No. It doesn't work that way. If you're hitting 50%, you're doing a damn good job. Because less than 50% of all draft picks are going to hit. Matter of fact, less than 20% are going to play more than 2 years in the league. And so far, the majority of Brad's picks have not only hit, but they've lasted. So James Houston was a good pickup. Aaron Glenn wasted him. Malcolm Rodriguez was a good pickup. Obviously, the injury hurt him. But you have to remember that some of these guys that you're drafting in the later rounds, those are supposed to be special teams guys. The Lions are building their 3rd roster. You've got offense, defense, special teams. They're not just building 2 parts of a team. They're building all 3. And so those guys have been brought in to do a certain job. Wasn't necessarily to be a starting linebacker and then stay that way for your career. No, you had to start in year 1 one, because he was playing better than the guys that we had, and two, we didn't have anybody. But as you start to bring more guys in, they get filtered down to where they were naturally supposed to be, which was special teams. So those aren't misses at all. Those are not misses. Yeah, so go back to Lucian. There was no younger guys that Davenport took the roster of. He didn't take the spot for anybody else. We went extremely deep on the defensive line this year, more so than we've done in seasons past. Mr. Thomas, I'm not sure on your question. No, we are not that dumb. Will, what are we talking about there? What are we talking about? 237 rushing yards. Yeah, Davenport is great. Okay, well, first of all, let's spell Davenport's name correctly. Number one. So you might want to refer back to that statement. No, we are not dumb, Will. We'll spell Davenport correctly. It's Davenport. And thirdly, 237 rushing yards. Yeah, you might want to look on the other side of the line. Like I said, I'm not going deep off into that guy today. I'm not, but I will this week. You're not going to like it, and you're going to have to visit Detroit Football Journal if you want to see it. You're not going to like it. And didn't I just play this for you? Didn't I just show you this? Did you miss this? Were you not in? Do you not see this giant hole down here on Davenport on the bottom of your screen? Do you not see the 3 holds and the blocks in the back on this play? That was 55 yards out of the 237 that should not have been on the board. Davenport, it didn't even get run towards Davenport. It was run to the other side. And Aiden wasn't in on this play. Why was Aiden not in on this play? Because Aiden's run defense sucks. That's why. I'll stop there. There you go. Davenport was being held the entire time, but he was on the opposite side of the field. Why do you think they didn't run towards Davenport? Think about it. It sucks when you're going to go up against somebody that knows what they're talking about, that is ready to come with receipts. Okay, let's get into year 3 for Brad. Let me hurry up and try to get through this, because I got better things to talk about than this. Antoine Green, 7th round pick. Who cares? 7th round pick. A wide receiver room that was already loaded. He's a 7th round pick. He made the roster. Ends up having a freak neck and head injury. Ruins his career. Kobe Sorsdahl, 5th round pick. Again, who else were we going to draft in 2023 in the 5th round? At pick 152, Kobe Sorsdahl hasn't worked out. The Lions moved around, sent a couple of picks elsewhere, and take Broderick Martin, a 3rd round pick, which, by the way, I'll say this for the 1,000th time. Less than 15% of all 3rd round picks make a roster and start. Less than 15%. And of those 15%, 3% end up being elite football players. 3%. So you do the math. There's 32 picks in a normal round, right? 32 picks times 15% means 4.8 players of that draft will start a game in their career. And of those, 0.15%, 0.15 football players, not even a quarter of a football player, will end up being elite. Do you need better numbers than that? First of all, less than 5 players end up starting out of the 3rd round. And of those 5 players, 3% of them become elite football players over their career. Guess what, guys and ladies? What round was Kirby Joseph taken in? 3rd round. What round was Lee McNeil taken in? 3rd round. What round was Isaac Tisla taken in? 3rd round. Do I need to finish this? Okay, I will. Lee McNeil's been one of the best defensive tackles in the league. Kirby Joseph was literally the best safety in the league last season. No 3rd round pick in 24. 3rd round pick, Hendon Hooker, Broderick Martin in 23 didn't work out. And Isaac Tisla is better than Tim Patrick. He's worked out just fine. In a loaded wide receiver room, that is 3 3rd round picks that have not only started, but 2 of them have become elite. Tell me again how Brad Holmes sucks. Please, tell me again. Because if less than 15% of 3rd round picks start, he's got 3 in 5 drafts that have started. And if less than a quarter of a player becomes elite, he has 2 that have become elite in 5 drafts. Those are such rare numbers, I couldn't even quantify it. I wouldn't even know how to start. I'll ask AI to do it later. Again, tell me how Brad Holmes sucks. I don't get it. I'll never understand it. So last year's draft, Terrion Arnold, he's going to be fine. He's got an injury. He shouldn't have played after he hurt his shoulder the first time this year. He fought back, and even when he fought back to play, he played better than everybody else. Ennis Rakestraw, too many injuries, hasn't played enough yet. Year 3 is when you're going to evaluate the guy. He either gets off the pot and he plays next year, or he's done. Brad's not going to hang on to him. I guarantee you that. I guarantee you that Brad will not hang on to Ennis Rakestraw if he does not play next year. Hold on, Brian Brady. Hold on, buddy. Are you serious right now? Are you telling me that Isaac Tisla, Lee McNeil, and Kirby Joseph wouldn't start on any other team? Dude, you're out of your effing mind. You are completely out of your mind. Seriously, dude. My God. Go jump in a cold lake. Wake up. Giovanni Manu, 4th round pick. Freak athlete. You don't find size. Just like Broderick Martin, you don't find size like that. And on a roster where you don't need either of them to start, period. They're pure backups and project players, 2 project players. You have room for those guys. You have another 51 players on the roster that are going to play at a high level. And they have. Injuries. See, the problem is fans are seeing all the injuries, and then they see the players that go in because of the injuries, and they're thinking, well, these players aren't very good. Well, if we didn't have the injuries, those players wouldn't be on the field yet, would they? And you can't make the sum of the parts in pieces that Brad has put together answer the bell for 21 injured players on IR last year. And what do we have, another 16, 17 this year? Get real. You're putting that kind of pressure on Brad Holmes. You've blown through an entire reserve roster on the practice squad. You've blown through it all 2 years in a row. You had to bring in 6 DBs from other teams. But you're going to say that Brad Holmes is missing? Come on. Go tell me another GM that doesn't have 2 or 3 players that they haven't missed on in 5 drafts, and another 2 players that haven't had injury issues in 5 drafts. When you find that answer, you know where I will be. Right here. No, I don't have the lines open just yet. Not yet. I will, though. Sione Vaki, 4th round draft pick. Can't stay healthy, but when he's on the field, he's one of the best special teamers in the league. Just has to stay healthy. Mekhi Wingo, our 6th round pick last year, next year's evaluation time. He's going to have to do something, right? It's just time. But again, it's a 6th round pick. But hold on here. We were talking about 3rd round picks where less than 15% ever start a game. Christian Mahogany is a 6th round pick. You know how much further that number dwindles when you get into the 6th and 7th round? It's like next to nothing. Next to nothing. And Christian Mahogany, had he not been injured, because he got injured in yesterday's game, if you didn't notice that. He wasn't playing well. He got injured again. He was literally limping around after the play when we were down at the goal line and got stopped. He had to hobble to the line just to be able to get the damn play off. But Christian Mahogany is a 6th round pick, and he's a starter. A starter that a lot of y'all wanted. I wasn't as satisfied, but again, there wasn't that many more players available. And then you have Frazier, right? A 5th round pick this year. Both Mahogany and Frazier slid at least 2 to 3 rounds. So extremely good pickups. Frazier is a million miles away from being ready. No training camp, no practices, right? He's only been practicing in season, which is nothing. Miles Frazier needs an entire offseason, an entire training camp to even know what you have. It's too early. Now imagine this for a moment. Frazier and Mahogany, what if they're backups for you? What if those guys end up being backups? Now we immediately have one of the best offensive lines in the league. If you go out and get Jake Slater or Slaughter, however you say his last name, from Florida, the best center coming in from college this year in the draft, you go and secure him, you're right back in the hunt with the best offensive line in the league. Frazier's had snaps, Mahogany's had snaps. Both of those guys are going to be high-end backups. Manu is not our immediate left tackle. And if the Lions feel that way, I think we're in trouble. Manu should be a backup. He's a Dan Skipper replacement. Dan Skipper won't be around next year. Probably shouldn't be anyway. He didn't really make the roster this year. Shouldn't have, but he did. So yeah, you exchange Skipper for Manu. And if Frazier and Mahogany have to fight it out with another left guard, that's doing exactly what you need to do for the offensive line. And then the Lions either need to bring in an all-pro left tackle or draft another left tackle. If it's me, I'm figuring out what we're going to do with some of these guys that we just signed, like Kirby. What's going to happen? Because if he can't play, then I don't know how that contract, ends up, with the guaranteed money. I don't know what's going to happen. But you should probably go out and find a left tackle that can play at a high level. And again, I'm not saying that Taylor Decker's not a great left tackle. He is when he's healthy. But he's not healthy. And unless Frank Ragnow comes back, I think that Taylor Decker retires. I think that's how that goes down. If Frank Ragnow comes back, Decker plays another year. If Frank Ragnow doesn't come back, I believe that Taylor Decker retires. And quite honestly, I think that both of them should just retire and stay retired. Ragnow missing a whole year of football. I get it. He's still one of the best in the game. The Lions need to move on. Because if you're accepting of the fact that Ragnow should come back next season, then you're accepting of the fact that Brad Holmes is once again, in your opinion, not going to go and address the offensive line. By having Ragnow and Decker retire, you are now forced to do something. And if I'm Brad Holmes, I'm just saying that right now today, you're both gone. You're not coming back. I'm addressing my offensive line regardless. And then you're going to have to come in and compete with those guys if you want to come back. That's how I am as a GM. That's exactly what I would be doing. I would not be accepting of settling and losing potential opportunity at great players in the draft. That would be an epic failure. Ken Hicks says, my question is, if you trade Kirby and not give him a contract, how does that affect the rest of the players? Don't you have to be somewhat loyal? I hear you. Let me answer a question with a question. When you go back and look at what the Lions did previously, when they were under William Ford, was he not more of a player's owner? Wasn't he sometimes loyal to a fault where players would stick around that really had no business sticking around? So I think that when you go down that road, it is a slippery slope in a hurry. Yes, you do have to be loyal, meaning I think that when you come out and say we want to draft, develop, and re-sign our players, that you have to re-sign the players that are playing at a high level. If you can afford it. Right? If you can afford it. But in the case of Kirby, if you knew that there was a knee issue, I think that the team would better understand that, and they might respect you more if you go to the players and say, hey, we really wanted to keep Kirby. He's everything that we wanted. He's worked his tail off. You know how good he is in the locker room, how good he is on the field. However, we couldn't do anything about his knee. So if you knew that before you gave him a contract, I think the players would then understand that, okay, so really you looked out for us because you didn't waste $80 million that is going to help us sign more players. We want to win a Super Bowl, but we can't win a Super Bowl with our star player that you just paid $80 million on the sideline. We needed somebody else. Unfortunately, love you, Curb, but your knee's no good. So had they known that before, it's an easier conversation. But to your point, if he was totally healthy and you don't re-sign him, you have two options. Can't re-sign you because of affordability, or you sign him. There's only two options you have. You can't explain it any different. The third caveat to that is if you knew beforehand. So it's tough, man. I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, Mike P, glad to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. Hope Miss P's doing well. I know people love to just talk smack, and then a lot of them are fake accounts too. You go and look at their accounts and you can see where they just joined on the 16th of December, right? We know who those people are. So when I'm bitching at some of these people, or getting back at some of them, I think the real fans here know that that's not who I am, but that's who they are. They're the fakers, They're the ones that are developing these fake accounts, burner accounts, just to start shit in the chat because they have nothing better to do in life but to be a narcissist. You know what? Ratledge has been pretty good. I think that, again, you have to look at the totality of the offensive line. How many offensive line formations has he had to deal with? Right? He's also a rookie. He's a rookie. Let's take a quick peek at something. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. GeoBaby 1995 $10 super chat says, in business, you have to fail over and over until you find success. Sometimes the best thing is to take a situation and learn what doesn't work to figure out what will work, so there is no SOL anymore. Man, that's a good statement. Appreciate the super chat and the donation. I agree. I absolutely agree. In all my years when I trained sales staff across the country, it was, you have to fail to succeed. You'll never know what success is until you fail. See, what a lot of Lions fans see and hear and remember is all the failure prior to Brad Holmes. And they're taking that anger and that resentment and they're pouring it on Brad Holmes when it's misplaced, right? You're misplacing your anger and your frustration of what we used to be, and you're pouring it on a guy that has done nothing but build you a team that can win football games. If this team just started in 2021 and we had no fan base, we're an expansion team, and we just started in 2021, how you feeling about your team right now? Now that's a question. Think about that for a moment. This was an expansion team, and you just started today, or on 2021. How are you feeling today? Man, you are pumped. You're going to tell me in 5 seasons, we've already won a couple of playoff games, we went to an NFC championship, and we've got some studs on this roster, and a winning record? Pretty pumped. I'm not going to pour on to what used to be. I didn't agree to anything being SOL. The only thing that's SOL, Brian Brady, is you. You're about the only thing that's SOL. Furthest thing from the truth on this team. This team started in 2021, not 2020. 2021, Dan and Brad took this team over. And since then, they've done nothing but win at a high level, and give us things that we've never seen before. But unfortunately, fans want to continue to go back to 2020, 2018, 2013, 2011, 2007, 2000, 98, 91, 89. Right? They want to keep going back to all the years that were, not their fault. Okay, you remember this is my Excel spreadsheet. Let me get to the section that we actually need to get in. So this is from my draft work of this year, based on the system that I put together. The first round grades, I'm not really concerned about. Those don't really matter. That was based on consensus. But these grades right here matter to me. These are the guys that I felt were pretty good. Okay? So I'm gonna come back to this in just a moment. Let's go here instead for right now. Let's see if we can let me bring in a display capture. These are your grades for the offensive line that was selected in 2025 that have a minimum of 500 snaps. And I do a minimum of 500 snaps because that's what matters, that they've actually played. Okay? Tate Rowledge is number 5. Graded number 5 with a 70.5 overall. His run block is a 75.4. That is number 3 overall. His pass blocking needs a lot of help right now. He's number 12. He's allowed 2 sacks, 8 hits, 11 hurries, 21 pressures. His efficiency is a 97.6, which ranks number 2. He's had 5 penalties on the season, of which one of them has been accepted, and that is 9th best. Not 9th worst. 9th best, or I should say this again. He's 1, 2, 3, 5th best. Look at these guys. Armand Membu. Where was he drafted? Way ahead, right? Josh Simmons, Will Campbell. All those guys have tons of penalties. Let's go back to the offense. Overall grade. Tate Rowledge is 5th right now, and people want to say that he's had a bad season? Where did I have him rated? I had Tate Rowledge as the number 2 overall right guard. I had Dylan Fairchild as my number 3. I had Tyler Booker as my number 5. I had Gray Zabel as my number 6. Miles Frazier as my number 7. Top tackles, Armand Membu, number 1. Donovan Jackson, number 3. Jonas Savinier, how you pronounce his last name, number 5. Banks, number 7. Connerly, number 9. Irsay, number 10. Will Campbell, number 11. Well, let's go back to where these guys are ranked right now. Armand Membu, I had number 1. He's number 1 ranking right now. Calvin Banks, I had him as number 7. He's number 2 right now, grade-wise. Will Campbell, I had him as at the bottom of my list based on my grading scale, and he's ranked as the number 3. Tyler Booker, I had him as the 5th best guard in the draft. He's ranked number 4. Tate Rowledge, I had as number 2 best guard in the draft. He's ranked number 2. Now, if I were to whittle this back down, this would make more sense. Let me just do guards. Guards right now, Tate Rowledge is number 2. Tyler Booker is number 1. And on my scale, I had Tate Rowledge as number 2 and Tyler Booker as number 5. I had Donovan Jackson, who was supposed to play left tackle. I'm pretty sure on one of my sheets I had him listed as left tackle, right guard, or something like that. I just don't see it. Dylan Fairchild, who was on nobody's radar. He's number 4 in for rookies right now. Dylan Fairchild was number 3 for me. Jared Wilson. I don't have Jared Wilson on my sheet. Gray Zabel. Again, I had him as number 11. He's number 5. Jonah. I had Jonah as number 5. He's number 7 right now. Not having a great season. Go to tackles. Armand Membu. Again, I had it number 1. Calvin Banks. I had it number 7. Will Campbell, I had it number 11. Josh Simmons. Where is Simmons? I don't have him in my top 11. Josh Connerly, I had as number 1 as a right guard. He's playing tackle this year. Ursary, I had him at number 10. He's number 6. So pretty spot on. Again, those are PFF grades, right? Based on 500 snaps played. Pretty spot on. So I think that my work speaks for itself. And to say that Tate Rowledge is not having a good year, I think we just proved it. When you look at rookies, and you have to compare rookies with rookies, you can't compare rookies with vets. Compared to all the other rookies right now, Tate Rowledge is your number 2 overall guard. Okay, how would they compare to everybody else? How would he compare to everybody else? Well, let's find out. Let's see. Where is he at? Tate Rowledge right now is the 23rd overall guard in the league. 23rd. And that is against all guards with a minimum of 500 snaps. Here you go. Again, PFF grades I could really care less about, but I know a lot of you use them. And I don't know anyone else right now that has grades like this that are, on these guys. So he is right here, 23rd. Booker's 21. Mason McCormick, the guy that I spoke about last year, 22. Kevin Zeitler, 15. Again, we couldn't retain Zeitler. He wanted to go home. Jonah Jackson, number 12. How long has he been in the league? 7 years? Peter Skoronsky, former first round pick. Joe Tooney, number 6. Steve Avila, guy that I liked in the draft a couple of seasons ago. So I think he's in pretty good company. Who's he ahead of? Ezra Cleveland, Landon Dickerson, Dominic Pooney, another guy that I liked that was going to be a 5th round pick. Sumatia, or however you say his last name, wasn't he a 1st round pick last year? Joe Tippmann, another guy that I liked at guard center. Matt Goncalves, another guy I liked at guard center. So I think he's doing pretty well. I think he's doing really well, actually. It's a pretty rough season for the guy. It's a pretty rough season when you have to look at, all these injuries that he has to go up against. Brady, I'm not sure what you're talking about. Stop with PFF. OFF shows Hutch does everything. What's OFF? I mean, PFF shows that Hutch does everything, honestly. It's why you can't agree with everything that is on PFF. Their grades are terrible. You just got to look at the stats. This year for all offensive line, Penei Sewell is the number 1 ranked offensive lineman in the league right now, with a 95.8, 97.8 in run block, 78.6 in pass block. The 78.6 pass block is a problem for me. He's ranked 15th in the league in pass blocking. Yeah, it's still good, but that is where we need to get a lot better. Is in our pass blocking. He's great as a road grader. He's just not great in pass block, and I don't know that his grade is really that high. If I were to go in and look at every single snap. All right, let's finish with this last night's game. I mentioned Jared Goff going up against this blitz. And Jared Goff struggled against the blitz in week 16. He completed just 4 of 12 attempts for 36 yards with 2 sacks. When the Steelers reduced their blitz rate in the second half from 31.8% to 20%, it allowed Goff to find more success against 4 or fewer rushers. He averaged more than twice the yards per attempt at 7.8 against non-blitzes compared to when he was blitzed at 3.0. Trailing for most of the second half, the game script forced the Lions to operate out of the shotgun. We should have been in shotgun the whole damn time. Goff threw for 347 yards when aligned in the shotgun, the 3rd most in a game in his career, including all 3 of his touchdown passes. Yet we're saying that Goff was a problem yesterday? Yeah, it didn't look great at times. It didn't look great at all. Blocking was an issue. Not being in the gun was another issue. But people were saying, our third quarter, how bad it was. And it was. It was very bad. But how much of that are we going to put on Goff? Let's bring it up. And let's go play by play. Man, I'm excited about the draft already. I've already got one article up. For those of you that haven't seen it yet, this week, if you do share the articles that that I put out, I don't care which article it is. It could be any article. If you share it on Twitter or Facebook and you tag me, I'm going to be giving out random memberships for free to DetroitFootballJournal.com. Here's the article on Slaughter. This is the dude that I believe changes the dynamic for the Lions offensive line in 2026. This is your next Frank Ragnow. You heard it here first. I'm glad that I was the first one to put out an article about this guy because now it's in writing what I believe about him. And I did update it from the first time that I put it out. I added some more context. I made a little bit of a funny in here because I said the Lions offensive line requirement, you have to be an avid outdoorsman, right? Because that's what Frank Ragnow is all about. The dude's a big-time fisherman, loves to hunt. He'll fit in just perfectly with Ratledge and the rest of the guys. The dude's going to be great. And he's all about team. So check out the article, share it. And then if you leave comments today after the show, if you leave comments in the comment section, I'm going to pick some random people to give away a membership. All I need is your email, and you'll just email mailbag@rockdown.com. Every day in the morning show, I'm going to announce the winners in the morning right when we get started, and then you just email me, and then you'll get your free membership. I've also added something new so that if you are sharing articles and you're bringing people in, if you're getting people to subscribe free, they don't have to pay, you will earn like 3 months free, 6 months free, even a year for free if you bring people to DetroitFootballJournal.com. The reason why it's so important is because I've thought about going to like Patreon and some other things. I can do everything I need to do right here. So I can do film review a lot easier with my own website unless the NFL wants to come and mess with it. But I can do a lot more right here. And it'll be a lot easier. I'm going to start adding videos, direct links to go back and forth between YouTube. So if you want to see the latest and greatest, you'll be able to go to Detroit Football Journal eventually, and you'll see all of the things that we're doing on YouTube as well. So it'll be cross-pollinated, if you will, eventually. I just got to figure out some of the code, and we'll get it rolling. But anyway, check out Jake Slater. I think he's the difference maker for the Lions in 2026. I really do. Play-by-play for the Lions last night. Man, it was atrocious in the third quarter. I get it. Again, it's been an issue. We only had 3 plays. 3 plays in the third quarter. 3 plays. And primarily it's because when they got the ball to start, right, they fumbled it. And then, God, we get a safety. Like, I don't understand how Jared Goff holds on to that football in the end zone. But right there, you're thinking, why are you not trying to run the football? Why are you not trying to run the football? Or at the end of the game, why are you taking delay of game penalties? There's stuff like that has happened this year that is just mind-boggling. Doesn't make any sense to me. But in the third quarter, they go 9 plays, 65 yards, 427. The weird fumble that happens, right? We get the fumble, and then we go incompletion at the 3-yard line, and then a 2-yard pass, and then a safety. You would have thought, okay, run it. But we haven't been able to run the football, period. Well, why didn't we bring in jumbo formations? Why didn't we bring in and do almost like a tush push, bring in some extra bodies to put in front of Montgomery and just overpower them? Like, you see other teams do it. The one play that the Steelers ran last night, which I put up on Twitter, like this is the type of stuff that I don't understand why we're not using it and why we're not doing it. It's a perfect play for Gibbs. Again, I know I'm bouncing around, but let me show you this play real quick because I'm sure all of you will remember it. Let me find it. Oh, yeah, this play was beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful play by the Steelers. This misdirection here, what they did, you got 2 guys going right, 3 guys going, you got 2 guys going to our left looking at this, and 2 guys going to the right. And the tight end hands it off. I mean, what a great play. If that was Gibbs, that was a touchdown. All right, if we use that play around the end zone, that's a touchdown every time. So it's that kind of stuff that I don't understand as to why we're not using when we need it. Now, is that a play you do out of the end zone? Absolutely not. But why are we not bringing in a wing tee and bringing in extra offensive linemen and just going bully ball forward? Get us 2-3 yards. Get Goff out of the end zone. Right? Goff should never be under center. He should never be under center, or even close to being under center when you're that backed up. It should have been in shotgun, and yeah, you should have been dinking that ball and just getting a couple yards, get forward, and try to get a first down. Just horrid play calling. But the reason why we only had three snaps in the third quarter is because they took the ball 17 plays, 64 yards for 9 minutes and 44 seconds after that, after the safety. And that leaked into the fourth quarter. So all of that time got put into the fourth quarter. So when you look at the third quarter, all it shows on ESPN is 4 minutes and 27 seconds for the Steelers and 51 seconds for the Lions. So barely 5 minutes of a 15-minute quarter. The balance went into the fourth quarter. But not great. Not great play calling. So they get a field goal after the safety, then we get the ball back and we punt. Again, play calling. Incompletion, short left to Raymond. 5-yard penalty on Ratledge for a false start. One of very few, right? He's only had 5 penalties all season. And then another incompletion short right to J-Mo. And then another incompletion deep left to J-Mo. Pass. In a game where we couldn't run the ball, we had to put the ball up. I think Jared did a great job as much as he could. I mean, he put up the ball 54 frickin' times with no interceptions. You guys know my rule of thumb. You put the ball up over 30 times, you're probably going to throw 1 pick. You put the ball up 40 times, you're going to throw probably 2 picks. You put the ball up 50 times, you're probably going to throw 3 or more picks. Jared Goff didn't throw 1 interception last night. He made sure not to give that ball away. He threw for 3 TDs, took 3 sacks. Again, you can't ask Jared to have a better football game. But what we needed was a run game. And 12 yards? 12 frickin' yards? But the running backs combined for 11 yards or 14 yards? Jahmyr Gibbs, 2 yards? That's a problem. That's a huge problem. And around the end zone, why we didn't try to run the football the last 2 or 3 yards doesn't make any sense to me either. Doesn't make any sense.
They won that game. So, look, it's frustrating. I was proud of the way the guys fought. We fought our way back in that and had an opportunity to win the game, which is ultimately what you want. But we weren't able to close it out. And at the end of the day, that's on us. I mean, we did that. We're the ones who put ourselves in that position where we had to try to score on the last play. But some of the efforts were outstanding, and it was just too little, too late. A lot of we just didn't make enough plays.
How do you explain the emotion of the last play, the controversy of it?
I don't even want to get into it, because it's not going to change anything. We still lost. It's. Look, you think you score, you don't score, and then, you think you're going to have another play, replay it or back it up and one more shot, and it doesn't. And that's just, I guess that's the way it's written in the rule book. So that's frustrating. But there again, it should never come to that.
All right, let me comment on that because I think that this is a big misconception about the rule. I don't know what Dan's thinking here. And maybe I don't totally understand it. But I think what I mentioned last night and what I researched is fairly accurate. If you have a offensive pass interference on 4th down, you don't get another replay ever. You don't get 4th down again. You don't. Now, was the touchdown good? Yes, and I think that's what the ref was trying to say, that the touchdown was good, but it wasn't good because of the penalty before that negated the play, and you don't get a replay because it was 4th down. If it was third down, right, it goes to fourth down. So you get the penalty, and then it advances to fourth down. If it was second down, you get the penalty, it advances to third down. I'm pretty confident in that. Am I wrong? I don't know, because now I'm just as confused as everybody else. But I'm pretty positive that's the way it's been the whole time. You've never been able to get a replay of the down. And I think I said this in the beginning of the season. I know I did. That on pass interference on defense, you get to replay the down. Right? The offense gets a replay of the down when there's defensive pass interference. You walk the ball up, you replay third down or whatever down it is. Offense, you lose the down and the yardage. That I'm almost definitive. I said that in the beginning of the season that is a rule that I wanted to change. I'm going to find the receipts because I know I have it. And you watch. The Lions are going to put in a rule change request. You watch.
There are opportunities we weren't able to put it in before that play.
Your offense that's predicated here on running the football being just 15 yards on the ground again. I know you always want to watch the film, but just what did you see from your perspective? What was the difficulty getting done bowling other than being down late?
Yeah, just couldn't quite get it going, man. Just, made some hay in the pass game. Golf was in a good place. Our receivers were making plays. That's kind of where our explosives were showing up. And so, went that route. And then we come out, and really the third quarter we only had, we had those 3 plays. And that was it for the third. And then we were down 2 scores. So, now you're definitely throwing it. So just didn't make enough. Certainly I wish we could have run it more. I would love to run the ball a little bit more than that, a lot more than that. But just wasn't one of those days.
And people will talk about, obviously, the last play, but your level, if you're disappointed, it looked like the Steelers pushed you guys around a bit. They ran the ball better, stopped the run, physical. Yeah. What sings you?
I can't argue with that. I mean, the ground game says it. I mean, they're rushing. Now they rushed it. They had a lot more carries. And some of that was, our defense was on the field for a while. And, when you're able to convert and stay on the field a while, then you can kind of bounce from run to run to run to, play pass to, it just opens your offense up. And that's what they're able to do. And, they can, you run a play, you get the look. You run a play, you get the look. You run the opposite of that and see how they respond, and then you get a look. And we weren't able to do it, and they were. And yeah, I mean, I can't. They got after us. They rushed for over 200 yards, and only 15 for us.
So that last play is tough to talk about, but did you think that one brought? Did you think that was a penalty? Did you see it?
I didn't see it. I couldn't even see it. Man, I was looking at the protection and golf, and then I saw the catch, and that was.
How about the heads up, decision to pitch the ball off and everything?
Yeah, it was a headsy play, man, and he wasn't down, and just to stay alive for the last play, man. I mean, that's what Saint is. He's a freaking smart, instinctive player. Gave us one more shot. We thought, but didn't work out.
And what was the explanation you got on the call a few plays earlier where just Slow was called?
Just that. They said that it was OPI. He ran into the defensive back or whoever it was, which, there's nothing you can do. They see what they see. And I didn't see that one either, so I have no idea.
Dan, when you're analyzing, dissecting this game, do you regret not kicking a field goal early in the game?
No.
How much, of the substitutions that you have to make, so many on the offensive line and the defensive backfield, there seemed to be some confusion on some plays when safeties are supposed to go and all that. Does that just take a toll when you're constantly rejiggering your lineup every week and having these guys come up?
Well, I don't. You know what? you love having guys that are there every week, of course, because you get used to it and you build a rapport and you're all on the same page. But that's man, we've lived this for 3 years. We should be better than that. You know, we've got to get our guys ready. We can do better. Every team's got injuries in this league. Most of them have some type of injuries. You got an injury bug somewhere, and as coaches, we're charged with having those guys ready, make sure we're on point, the substitutions, the whole thing. That's what we got to do. And I know this guy, you know, Rogers is really good about messing with you on third downs and stuff. You know, they roll out and see if you're substituting, then he gets back on the ball. And you know, we talked about it. We worked it this week, and, you know, that got us a couple of times. But, you know, you gotta have those guys ready that are going to play for you, and then you try to help them with the call, you know, and as much as you can reduce the burden on them and make calls that help, you know, kind of help them too. That's what you're trying to do.
Considering the optimism in your room coming into the season, all the talent you have returning, how do you describe your emotions, where you guys stand?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's frustrating. We just lost 2 in a row, you know, so that's the word. I don't know. I don't know what all this is or isn't. I mean, I know we got 2 left, and I just want to see us finish, man. I just want to finish our style of football with 2 to go, man. You know, and try to play 4 straight quarters of good football, you know, clean football, efficient football. That's what I want to do, and we're on a short week now. You know, we got Minnesota. We're back in tomorrow, and got to have a game plan ready for these guys, and we got to be ready to go out to Minneapolis and put it all together and execute.
And your playoff hopes obviously diminish. I assume you know that, your team knows that. How does that affect? It's very slim odds right now. You address that? How do you deal with it?
No, I mean, kind of what I just said is what I told them. We got 2 to go, man. I want to see us play with our identity, you know, with what we are and what we're about. And, you know, like, we're big boys in this league, man. You pull your pants up and you go to work. And, you know, you can't feel sorry for yourself. It doesn't mean it doesn't sting. It doesn't feel bad. But we have nobody to blame but ourselves. I mean, you know, it's on us, and it's also on us to finish. We got 2 to go.
What you had said about trying to play 4 straight quarters, you haven't done that in a minute.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
What you had said about playing 4 straight good quarters, efficient quarters, you haven't done that in a minute. Why do you think that is? Why does that slip away from you?
Yeah, there's a lot of errors, man, that have popped up. You know, we've got some mental errors here or there, or a lack of self-discipline, and look, ultimately, I'll put that stuff on me, man. That's on me. I mean, there's no other way to cut it other than it's the head coach. And so, you know, it's on me, man.
All right, how much of it's on Dan Campbell? That's the question. Seems like we get every week. It's on Dan. Dan, no coach is going to come up here and say, my defensive coordinator failed. My offensive coordinator failed. My special teams guy failed. No coach is going to do that. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, we get the same old. You hear from every coach. So I'm going to ignore all that. What I liked about what he said is he just wants to see this team play 4 quarters of football. Their brand of football. I do too. Because the Lions brand of football, with the team that we have, can win a lot of football games. Their brand of football is missing, and I guess I don't recognize or understand why it's missing. Robbie, what's happening, man?
How you doing?
I'm doing, man. Just take it away, man. Tell us whatever you want to say. I'm gonna type some stuff up and try to get some clarification real quick. But let us know what's on your mind.
So, and this comment isn't just for the previous game that we played or the previous last few weeks. This is a general insight for the whole season. Dan's right in that press conference. We 100% got away from our identity, our culture, what that team does as a whole for a football team. They lost their grit. We got bullied in the trenches. And we didn't implement what we were doing for the last 3 years, which is ground and pound the football at will, moving the sticks at will, controlling the time of possession at will. And our team is much, much better than this. I think Dan Campbell is much, much better than this. But there's an old saying, you only as smart as the company you keep. I think Dan Campbell has some bad advice around him that he takes too heavily into consideration instead of trusting the guys on his team. Like, you made it a point earlier in the show that David Montgomery hasn't been running the ball well all season. Well, I'll counter that point with when David Montgomery has had 10-plus carries, he's been extremely effective. How many games
I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
How many games has he gone this season where he's had less than 10 carries? A large, vast majority of our games this season, he has had less than 10 touches, including the game yesterday where he only got the ball 4 times. Any good running back will tell you there's a rhythm to the game. There's a flow to it. You need to be in the game playing to get that vibe, to get that feel. And if you're not consistently rotating in and out of the game and getting your feet wet, you're not vibing with the game. David Montgomery has demonstrated over the years, his time in Chicago and his time in Detroit, the more times he touches the ball, the better he gets as the game progresses. And we got away from that. He is the experienced running back on this roster for running behind a bad O-line. He got that from Chicago. You mentioned he never had a 1,000-yard season in Chicago. You're right. But he has always been effective. His yards per carry were always up, and he's been very close to a 1,000-yard season a couple different times with a terrible O-line. I'm going to say piss-poor quarterback play. They've had a wide receiver here or a wide receiver there like us, but there's never been any real consistency to that Chicago offense that he was a part of. But he was still effective. When Brad Holmes brought him to Detroit, when he was asked about Detroit's O-line compared to Chicago, he dropped a one-word line. He said money. It's like printing money. And then we stopped using him after the last 2 seasons. So I don't know why. I don't know who told Dan Campbell he's not effective, but he was our identity, and Gibbs was the supplement to our identity.
So hold on here. Let me add some context to this. So I looked up his stats. He's had 8 games with 9 or less touches this season, 7 games with 11 or more touches. And this is kind of interesting because in the Packers game in the opening of the season, he had 11 carries, only 25 yards, 2.3, no touchdowns. Against the Bears, he had 11 touches, better game, 57 yards, 5.2, 1 touchdown. Third game, 12 touches, 151 yards, 12.6, 2 touchdowns. Week 4 against the Browns, 9 touches, only 12 yards. And then he went 18 for 65, and then 4 for 24, and then 13 for 21, and then 11 for 40, and then 15 for 71. So he's had a great game this year with more than 10 touches. He's had, I would say, the Cowboys game. Great game. 6 touches, 60 yards. Very efficient. But I think to your point, it's exactly what we talk about often, Raw. It's having the ability to get that engine moving, right? Get it warmed up, and then you allow David and Jameer to kind of bounce off each other a little bit. So yeah, when you're missing the identity that we're speaking about, is you got to allow these guys to set the identity. They abandoned the run last night because we got down. They had to. They abandoned the run. That defensive line was just all over the place. Their line. Jack Sawyer was outstanding. He made like the first 3-4 plays of the game. Just outstanding last night. So yeah, they need to get back to
You're a former boxer, right?
No, I boxed when I was young. Yes.
You said you had Golden Gloves or something?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you're in a boxing match, because I compare football to boxing.
Yep.
Because football's a sweet science, boxing's a sweet science. There's movement. You got to set up your power shots, right?
Yep.
So you set up your power shots, you lead with your jab. You take a step back, you lead with your jab, you counter with a hook. Gibbs is the hook.
Mm-hmm.
Montgomery's the jab. We weren't jabbing at all. We were just looking for the hooks. And when you do that, you exhaust yourself, you tire yourself out, and if you connect, it's devastating, but very rarely do you connect because people see it coming. We weren't jabbing enough. Montgomery is a hell of a pass catcher out of the backfield. We don't use him as a pass
That's
catcher.
disappeared. See, that to me doesn't make any freaking sense at all. And that's why I've been asking for the 2-back system, because David out of the backfield it has been more explosive than some games with him running the football. I mean, last year he was extremely explosive running the football, but this year something has been missing. And I think you could point your finger at a lot of different things. But I don't think it's necessarily David. I think that he's a good back. I think he's misused. But to use your analogy with boxing, unless you're in a power fight, right? You're trying to go in and just knock somebody out. You completely overmatch them, and you just want to get in and get out. Most boxers will feel each other out for the first 2 to 4 rounds. And then after that, you've been setting them up the whole time, right? You're going one way, you're showing them one look, and you're seeing how they react when, you do a double step, or you do a stutter step, or you do a feint, and you're trying to see how they react. Same thing with an offensive line in a run game. I'm going to go left. I'm going to go left. I'm going to go left guard. I'm going to go left tackle. I'm going to go inside. What are they doing? How are they reacting? And then it's like, okay, now I'm going to fake left, misdirection, counter right. And they all bit. They all went. Defense went to the right. And now, wide open to the right side of the offensive line. Same thing. So great analogy with boxing, because you're trying to set people up and see how they react. I agree.
Well, there's a sweet science to it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And removing Montgomery from the lineup, basically putting him on the bench, you're removing half of your dual threat. In my opinion, you're removing the power in your run game. You're removing half of your receiving options. Yes, Gibbs can receive the ball, but who would you rather have one-on-one with a cornerback or safety? Would you rather have Gibbs, who has a chance to blow by him and make him miss a tackle, or would you have Montgomery, who will bowl him over, make him miss a tackle, and still pick up 20 to 30 yards?
Yeah.
I get Gibbs as the home run, but Montgomery, those missed tackles that they're making when they make contact with him, like Witherspoon last year. Montgomery put his helmet down and his shoulder into Weatherspoon, put him on his ass, and took the ball 70 yards down the field. He did not score, but he demoralized that secondary with his power, his twitchiness, his ability to weave in the box, be touched but not be taken down. Like that's gut-wrenching to somebody who will juke you out of your shoes and just run by you. At that point, you got your defense rallying around you. We got to get to him a little quicker, buds. We're going to surround him and corral him into basically a corner to where his speed doesn't matter no more. Gibbs is 200 pounds. He gets hit. He's either falling east to west or he's falling south. Montgomery's 235. When he gets hit, he's falling north. He's not very tall, but he's still getting you that extra 3 yards. And instead of running a ball on a 3rd and 8 or instead of running the ball on a 2nd and 8 or a 2nd and 9, now we're at 3rd down and we're got 3rd and 5, 3rd and 4. So it's a more translucent situation to where it opens the playbook up more. The same situation on 4th down. Like if we're running the ball on 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 6 with Montgomery, he's falling forward. Now we're at 4th and 1 or 4th and 2. And that's a more conceivable situation to go for Dan Gamble.
Yeah.
I don't agree with every decision Dan makes.
No.
On the field.
I don't either.
He does make errors. However, those same decisions have also contributed to wins. And not just over regular teams, but good teams. Like, you have to take the good with the bad, the pros with the cons. And I see all these people in the chat, they're talking about Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell and this and that. They didn't do this and they didn't do that. Let's talk about what they did. The high draft picks that have turned out as Pro Bowl players. The lower end draft picks that has turned out as Pro Bowl players. Like, let's talk about that. Yes, our record is what it is this year, and a lot of it has to do. It's such a complex situation because you had the situation with Johnny Morton. You have some of the coaching decisions by Dan Campbell. You have the injuries. You have the O-line issues with Frank Ragnow and Graham Glasgow trying to figure things out. I'm not high on Graham Glasgow, but I didn't see a lack of effort. And that's what we've seen in the past with Detroit Lions players. They get paid and there's an immediate drop-off with a lack of effort. In this situation, Glasgow never got paid, but he also didn't stop trying. When he was prompted to do something, he's not used to doing.
Yeah. Hey, I want to talk about the final play. I want to talk about the final play for a moment too. So I don't want to forget that.
Yep.
I just did some more analysis and I looked up some of the NFL rules. Here's what it reads. I gave it 3 scenarios. Give me all 3, right? So clock hits 0 during the play is scenario number 1. The outcome, the game is over, Lions lose. The rule, a period is over, or a period is never extended for a foul committed by the offense. Rule 4, Section 8, Article 2 of the NFL rule book. The explanation, the defense accepts the offensive pass interference penalty to negate the touchdown. Usually, this would result in a replay of the down. However, because the time expired during the play, the game concludes immediately. The offense is not granted an untimed down to enforce their own penalty. Scenario number 2, the clock shows 1 second after the play has ended. The outcome, the game is over. The Lions lose unless they have a timeout remaining. The rule, the 10-second runoff rule, Rule 4, Section 7, Article 1, the explanation. Why it applies when you committed a foul, offensive pass interference in this case, and the play ended with the ball in bounds, a touchdown counts as in bounds. This means the only reason the clock is currently stopped is to administer your penalty, the runoff. The rule states that if an offensive foul stops the clock in the final minute, 10 seconds must be subtracted from the game clock. The result, since only 1 second remains, the 10-second runoff drains the clock to 0. The game ends. Remember, unless you have a timeout. The Lions did not have a timeout. The only Hail Mary exception, if the Lions have a timeout remaining at that 1 second scenario, they can use it to buy the clock back. The action would be the Lions call their final timeout to prevent the 10-second runoff. The result is the 10-yard penalty is enforced. The next play, it becomes 4th down and goal from wherever, right? 10-yard line, 11-yard line. The clock stays at .01. The clock start because a timeout was used. The clock starts at the snap. The Lions get one final play. I say all that to say this. You know, you saying that you don't agree with every call that Dan makes. Neither do I. Timeouts for me have been a sore subject because he did great during the game using a challenge finally for once when, you know, they're rushing to the line at the goal line and we ended up getting the fumble, right? But he finally threw the challenge flag without waiting. He finally threw the challenge flag. He heard the crowd going crazy, and he finally threw it. Great call finally by Dan. We got the ball back. Well, it ended up screwing us because, well, we get a safety, and then they get another field goal, so they got 5 points out of the deal. Well, maybe it gave us a chance because they didn't get a touchdown. They got 5 instead of 7. However, Dan Campbell's had a problem whether throwing the challenge flag early enough, often enough, and then going into the half, you know, in the first half with timeouts, going into the end of the game with timeouts. I get it. There's games that you're going to win. You don't need timeouts, but we should never lose a game with timeouts left on the board. Is that a fair statement?
That is a very fair statement. But let me back up for a second there, okay? Because when you were reading the rules, you were saying a lot there.
Yeah.
Now,
what part do you want me to clarify?
I don't want you to clarify anything. It's not to doubt your reading skills or anything, but that took you almost 3 minutes to read that section of the rule book.
No, there's 3 different scenarios. Yeah, there's 3 scenarios.
It is a very, very simple situation, right? But the complexity of the NFL and the rule book, they make it as vague as possible and put in as much stipulations as possible so that they can control which rules they like to follow. And that's also a problem and a flaw in the game. When you have 2 or 3 different rules in place and each of them contradict the other in a version or a situation in one way or the other, you're creating basically a paradox to where you're putting the control of the outcome in the game not in the player's hands, not in the coaching's hands, but in the official's hands.
Yep.
And then when you do that, you compromise the integrity of the game.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, man. I'm right there with you. I believe the same.
In this situation, it is offensive pass interference. However, you could also say it's defensive pass interference because when just before St. Brown makes contact with Jalen Ramsey on that play, Jalen Ramsey's seen doing something that he's done a million times, just like every physical wide receiver does a million times. When they're running into a space or to a spot that the DB or the coverage defensive player is at, they make contact with each other. They both put their hands on each other, and then they decide how they want to break one way or the other. The DB's deciding how the wide receiver is going to break one way or the other, and they have to play off of that. Jalen Ramsey flopped on that contact. He leaned into the contact and then basically jumped back. And those are things that you're taught as a wide receiver to do, but St. Brown didn't try and sell that. He was worried about trying to make a play to win the game. Jalen Ramsey sold the heck out of that and got the flag he was looking for. So if there was 1 second left on the clock, they ruled it a TD. they would have had to accepted the penalty for offensive pass interference, and they would have had to replay the down. Unfortunately, because the clock hit zero before,
hold on,
Jared Goff was able to get into the end zone.
Yeah, but the only way that you can replay the down is if they had a timeout because of that stupid 10-second runoff rule.
I did bring that up in your online show last night from your truck.
Yeah.
I did bring up the 10-second runoff.
Yeah.
However, they pick and choose when they want to enforce that.
Well, I mean, it's according to this, it's really clear. It's Rule 4, Section 7, Article 1 that states when you commit an offensive pass interference or any offensive penalty and the play ends with the ball in bounds, which a touchdown is considered in bounds. When Jared Goff got the lateral, there was no time left on the clock. So
absolutely.
Yeah, so this means that the only reason why the clock is currently stopped during that process is to administer your penalty, which is offensive pass interference. So the rule states that if an offensive foul stops the clock in the final minute, that the 10 seconds should be subtracted from the game clock. Well, there was no time, and even if there was 1 second, well, then that runoff runs it all off. So if you have a timeout, you can buy that 1 second back and say, we'll just call a timeout here. And then the clock.
100% that is correct.
Yeah,
however, I've also seen the same scenario occur to where they didn't do that. They've given the Chiefs or the Patriots or the Saints when Sean Payton and Drew Brees were there, the Cowboys back when they had Tony Romo, they've given them that luxury to run another play without running the time off the clock, without losing a timeout because they didn't have one in that scenario at the end of the game. They just let them go again.
Here's what I don't like. Here's what I don't like about this play, because I just watched the end of that play to what your point was, that Jalen Ramsey sold that. And, Amon-Ra St. Brown, there's multiple issues here. One, why did he only run barely 1 yard deep into the end zone? And then you come back out to take the pass to your back shoulder. It's going towards the sideline. Why are we even running a play that is short of the effing end zone?
At that point, you got to put that on the player. He did that intentionally to think that his lower body and his general ideology of what his physicality is. St. Brown's lower body is extremely strong.
Yeah, but he came
low center of gravity.
What I'm saying is, when you look
he's
at
very, very strong for his size.
Yeah,
so
but
what he's doing is he's catching the ball and he's leaning back into the end zone. That was his initial. What he didn't realize is he didn't just have one player on him. He had two players on him.
Right.
He was going to be fighting through two players to get into the end zone. If it was just one player, he's leaning into that and he's scoring on his own. But the fact that he didn't know there was a second player behind him, he didn't know he'd be fighting two players. If he knew that, I think he wouldn't have cut out of the end zone. He would have stayed inside.
Well, and so it still bothers me that he doesn't know that there's two players there. Right?
Well, when he's got a guy over top of him, a wide receiver, Tesla or JMO, whoever was on that side, he's expecting them to draw the defender. So he's only anticipating one guy being on him. In this case, he's anticipating Jalen Ramsey being on him. And we all know, as great of a defender Jalen Ramsey is, his open field tackling is not ideal. That would have been a situation that St. Brown would have won.
This play is just a bad design either way. Partially, when you look at the Steelers defense, how they lined up, they put three deep. They put four guys on the front of the end zone, three deep, and they're mirror matching each other, right? One in, one out, one in, one out. So it looks like, triangles as you're painting the end zone. So they have everything covered. They got two guys to the outside that stay, and then they got three guys in the middle, and then they in the middle of the end zone, and they got three guys up front on the front of the end zone. Their linebackers all drop to the front of the end zone. Why you don't overload? Number one, why you don't overload one side of the defense to open up one of the corners is beyond me. Why you didn't have JMO running a slant and getting across the end zone is beyond me, because his speed would have opened up. Why Gibbs is not lined up in the slot and you're using speed, I don't understand. Matter of fact, Raymond, why is Raymond not in the game using speed on this play? Because how you're going to beat these guys is with speed, because we don't have a tight end that can go up and body somebody. Tesla is the only one that could really go up and body someone. JMO's been doing pretty well with contested catches. Why didn't we just give him a shot? Why didn't you just go to the back corner of the end zone and go up for a ball? I hate running short of the sticks. And this is a play that, again, if he catches this football and he's in the end zone, it's a done deal. But watching what Jalen Ramsey does is he does the LeBron. He throws his hands up and he jumps backwards.
100%, but he does that after leaning into the contact.
Yeah.
The key information there is when he leads into the contact, he's initiating it as well as St. Brown. And that's something every physical wide receiver does. George Pickens, A.J. Brown, Travis Kelce does it.
Yep.
These guys lean into their contact before they make a break, just to kind of help deceive the DB. And the DBs do it as well. When wide receivers are hitting the top of their route, they're putting a hand on a wide receiver to feel out how their body's shifting so they can make a break with them. Because if they don't, they're going to be half a step, 2 steps behind them. So that's something that these guys are taught to do. That was a very tic-tacky play that should have been offsetting penalties and just replay the down. Now, as far as the whole personnel situation, I have been calling for a spread offense since 5 weeks ago. Our young interior O-line is having a hard time picking up the blitz. What is the best way to prevent the defense from disguising what they're doing? Spread them out. Make the reads easier for Jared Goff. Let him see what's coming at him. And force the defense to show their hand. We have the players to play underneath. We have the players to play over top. We have the players to cut inside. And we're just not spreading out the defense. We're not opening up the field. And we're letting our young interior O-line get taken advantage of with a lot of disguised and a lot of disguised packages that the defenses are able to run when we're running our condensed formations, our bunch formations, our tight formations. We need to open up the offense and spread them out wide so that the guys on the O-line can see who's coming, who's in front of them, and they can just button down, back up, dig their heels in, and take care of the man in front of them instead of seeing all these crazy stunts or delayed blitzes or anything like that. Even Aaron Rodgers said on his post-game appearance that he didn't think that was PI. He thought that was a legit thing that the wide receivers does because he's seen his own guys do it a million times. So he was on pins and needles wondering if they won or lost the game. They didn't know which way the referees were going to call this. Aaron Rodgers, a 20-year veteran of the sport, has seen it so many times, and even he can't tell you that was offensive PI. That should tell you something.
Yeah, it should. I didn't hear that last night. Someone mentioned it to me, and I didn't listen to it. I'm gonna have to go listen to it today.
Yeah, he said it right after the game. He got up, was speaking to the reporter. He said, to be honest with you, I didn't see offensive PI. I didn't know what they were going to call. They were talking for a while. We were all on pins and needles waiting to hear what their final decision was. I just knew maybe we lost, maybe we won, and it turns out we won. And that is coming from Aaron Rodgers. Like, as much as I don't like his ego, he seemed to have humbled down this year quite a bit, and he's become more likable.
Yeah.
As a player talking to the media.
Yeah, maybe those dark retreats finally did some work for him.
He even said, like, I've played a lot of games in this stadium. I love playing here. The fans are great. The atmosphere is great. Those are things he said to the reporter last night after the game.
Yeah,
at this point, I think like the man has come to terms with he's ready to walk away. He's trying to make amends for a lot of the things he's said in the past. But
I think that's great. I mean, I've heard that he's going to be going into politics, so we'll see. We'll see where that goes.
But enough about him and that. We were talking about the Lions.
No, that's all good. I mean, look, Aaron Rodgers is always he's been a thorn in our side for a long time, but if he actually said some things last night that were good, I mean, that's just, hey, I mean, it just shows growth and it shows that, not everybody has to be an a-hole their whole entire life. Aaron Rodgers last night, just so we're all on the same page, had 9 yards of rushing, by the way, 2 carries, 9 yards of rushing. So for everyone in the chat saying that he was mobile, a mobile quarterback just as good as Lamar Jackson, and beat us with his legs last night, that 9 yards, man, running all over the field. You can't keep up with old man Aaron.
I said this at the beginning of your show. Trace saw it and commented on it, but when
crazy.
People mob together, you can't talk sense into them.
No.
They're going to support each other and their own beliefs and their own ideology. They're going to cause as much hassle based off what they think, which is information they get from other sources. Not every fan is as tuned into the game as myself, or as you, or some of the other fans out there. Even half of the content creators, they'll say something, and I'm just like, what are you saying? Like, I heard one content creator say Jack Campbell should play the edge because he's 6'5" and 250. He's the ideal size for an edge rusher, so he shouldn't be a covered linebacker. He should just play the edge. And I'm just like, are you crazy? Like, do you not understand he was a coverage specialist in college?
Yeah.
We drafted him to play coverage.
Yeah.
But you want to turn him into an edge rusher. Like, does that make any sense at all?
I mean, I guess, look, I can
see it.
I don't
got a coverage linebacker, and then you want to take away the coverage linebacker.
Well, we need more. We need more coverage. We need Derek Barnes to figure out how to cover. We need Alex Anzalone to figure out how to cover better, which I think that'll get fixed next year. I think that we'll bring in another coverage linebacker. I mean, to that point, though, I hear what they're saying. Obviously, you're not going to take Jack out of middle linebacker position. He's the captain of the defense. There's a reason why he's our middle linebacker. He does play extremely well, stopping the run from the middle linebacker position, or when he slides right or slides left and plays on the outside or plays, off ball behind the end. I get it. I get what they're trying to say, but you would be exactly what you said. You're going to take away a guy that is extremely good at what he does to go put him somewhere where he really doesn't belong. Could he be effective?
And
absolutely.
Learn something completely new.
Could he be effective? He could be effective, but that to me would be put him there on third down, right? Put him there when you're trying to rush the quarterback, when you're trying to blitz. That's what Jack would be utilized for, as an edge. I like the power play with him aligned next to Aiden or next to Davenport. We just don't do it enough. We don't do it enough because we don't have any confidence.
I like him in between Reeder and Lopez and McNeil because you know damn well that those two of those three guys are going to eat up at least 3 O-linemen, but probably you're going to have a running back trying to chip two of those three guys.
Yeah.
And then you got Jack Campbell just running free. He can brush off someone trying to arm block him while they're double teaming somebody, and he can get a clear cut to the quarterback. However, Jack Campbell is kind of like Aleem McNeil in this sense, okay? They drafted him as a coverage linebacker. McNeil was drafted as a run stopper. McNeil developed into a good pass rusher and a great run stopper.
Right.
Jack is a cover specialist who's developed into a great run stopper.
Yeah, I would agree.
Like if Jack entered the draft right now, he's going top 5.
Oh, for sure. I mean, he went 18, but
Top
yeah,
five.
he should have been. He should have been. Yeah, he should have been up there. So, Rob, give me your answer on this. I don't even want to address this crap in the chat, but people saying that Aaron Rodgers was mobile last night. Now, there's a difference between a mobile quarterback, someone that's actually a dual threat, or mobile. There's a difference there too. What I saw with Aaron Rodgers, like on the very first play, is he rolled out. It was a naked boot. He rolled out, and the pass was deflected, I think, by DJ Reed. On the third play of the game, he rolled out again and threw it to the tight end, and I believe that play was tipped by the tight end, almost intercepted by Alex Anzalone. When you're rolling a quarterback out, it isn't necessarily being mobile, but that's just part of an offensive scheme. To me, mobile means that you're navigating a pocket well. You're able to step up and create lanes where maybe a lane was not there. The pocket is collapsing, and you're able to navigate the pocket, which Jared Goff does very well. He's mobile enough to do those things, and Jared Goff actually is super deadly when they roll him out. I was beating my head against the wall last night, wondering why we were not rolling Jared Goff out last night. When he rolls out, our offense opens up, and we just didn't do it. And I'll never understand it.
Let me address this from a different perspective. You play Madden?
No, I haven't played Madden in years, man.
Okay. I play Madden quite frequently. I'm actually part of a couple different sim leagues that we run off Discord. Now, in Madden, when you have a quarterback and you're doing upgrades for him to progress him as he's going through his career, they have different things to upgrade, right? You have a field general, you have a deep ball thrower, you have scrambling, and you have an improviser.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have like a dual threat. So with Aaron Rodgers, I would call him an improviser or a scrambler. Okay? He's going to scramble around in the pocket. He's going to take what the defense gives him. If you're not playing the flat and he's got to roll to his right or left, and he's got a green grass in front of him, he's going to take it. If you got a dual threat quarterback, you're forced to play more of a shell and a spy game to help contain him, like we did against Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, you're not doing that against Rodgers.
Exactly. You don't have to spy him. You just got to make sure you got someone in the area to make him second guess if he really wants to take off down the field, or is he just going to be safe in the pocket? Then you got a player like Jared Goff. I don't call Jared Goff improviser. I call him more of a scrambler because he will dance in the pocket when he has to. If he's got open grass in front of him, he really doesn't want to take off, even if you give him 20 yards. The next closest defender to him is 20 yards down the field. He really doesn't want to take off. He wants to use his arm.
Yeah.
But that's not saying he won't run.
Oh, and he has.
It's just,
he's done
it's not part of his mental breakdown on any given play. Whereas Aaron Rodgers, that's his last resort. It's not his first, second, third, fourth decision he's making. It's his last resort. It's his last decision. And if it's there, he's going to take it. Because if he's not putting the ball in the air, it's not in jeopardy. If he's running down the field and he decides to slide before contact, the ball's still not in jeopardy. It's a safe procedure. Jared Goff has that gunslinger mentality to where he wants to throw the ball down the field. He wants to let his guys go make a play. I'm not calling Aaron Rodgers selfish. I just think he has a little bit more athletic ability than Jared Goff.
I think a lot of quarterbacks have a lot more athletic ability than Jared Goff. But you know what? The one thing I'm not going to give up is go look at, you got to go look at how many of these athletic or mobile quarterbacks, how many of them are winning Super Bowls right now? right? Or how many of them have winning seasons right now? How many of them have the stats that Jared Goff does? And at the end of the day, when you boil it all down, there isn't much difference except for the last couple of Super Bowls. You have a Jalen Hurts Super Bowl winner. You have Patrick Mahomes Super Bowl winner in the last couple of seasons. And then prior to that, you have a bunch of stick in the mud pocket passers. And then you have Patrick Mahomes again. And then you have stick in the mud pocket passers. And then you have Patrick Mahomes again. But for the large portion of the NFL, it has been non-dual threat quarterbacks that win Super Bowls from the pocket. And every single one of them, like where I started, they all need and must have an elite offensive line.
The ability to scramble or improvise in the pocket as well when under duress.
Yeah.
That's one thing Matthew Stafford had early in his career and even late in his career until we traded him to the Rams. Matthew Stafford was more mobile than anybody ever gave him credit for.
Yeah.
He was also a really big dude. I remember playing the Tennessee Titans, and he trucked Jair Cox, who's a smaller linebacker, but he's a linebacker. Stafford ran him over to get a first down. That's not – quarterbacks just don't do that. It might contribute to some of his back issues today, but Ben Roethlisberger was another big quarterback with mobility skills. And he would run down the field and truck defense or linebackers. And then Mike Tomlin told him, you're safe in the pocket, stand in the pocket, and throw the ball around the field. That's where we can protect you. We can't protect you when you run past the line of scrimmage. Ben Roethlisberger stayed in the pocket, and he won 2 Super Bowls. He became a pocket passer. So I like the idea of my quarterback being athletic enough to dance around in the pocket when he needs to.
Is Jared Goff athletic enough?
I like the idea. I think he is. I just think he's a little more timid. Not timid. I think he thinks less of it because he's constantly looking downfield to make a throw.
Yeah, which is what you're supposed to do.
And that's where he relies on his O-line in front of him because he's not looking at the pass rushers. He's looking at his options down the field. And you could say he's a little hindsight 2020. He's got tunnel vision, but he really doesn't have tunnel vision because he's got very good peripheral vision. He's not throwing no-look passes like Matthew Stafford, but he'll be looking at J-Mo, and then on a dime, he'll spin 45 degrees, and he'll throw a dart to St. Brown on the other side. You could say maybe he's manipulating the safety. I think he's got really good peripheral vision. How many times has he looked at St. Brown running across the field, and then he twists the other direction and hits Laporta running some sort of out route or corner route or some sort of seam route up the middle? He sees so much of the field when he's back there. I think he needs to increase from his 3-step drop back to his 5-step drop back, but that has more concern with our tackles and how to keep the edges from getting that outside edge on him. Because when he does that, that arm kind of hangs back an extra yard or so for him to throw the ball down the field.
So right now, just taking a look at a couple of things, like Drake May, he is the 3rd quarterback ranked in the league right now, dropped 1 spot from number 2, 23 pass TDs, 7 interceptions, 4 rushing TDs, 6 fumbles. Josh Allen, 25 pass TDs, 10 interceptions, 12 rush TDs, 5 fumbles. Then there's Matthew Stafford, 37 pass TDs, 5 interceptions, -8 rush yards on the season, 0 TDs, 7 fumbles, number 1 in the league. Let's go down to Jared Goff, number 5 in the league right now. 29 pass TDs, 5 interceptions, 44 rush yards, 0 TDs, 3 fumbles. So he has half as many fumbles as Drake May, half as many fumbles as Dak Prescott, half as many fumbles as Josh Allen, half as many fumbles as Matthew Stafford. He has less interceptions by half of Dak Prescott, Drake May, Josh Allen, equal with Matthew Stafford. He has 0 rush TDs, just like Matthew Stafford. And Dak Prescott only has 2 rush TDs, by the way. But he has 44 rush yards. Matthew Stafford has -8. Dak Prescott has 140. Drake May has 362. Josh Allen has 535. And like I said, Matthew Stafford -8. So I'm not willing to, like even Jordan Love, is he a dual threat? Is he a mobile quarterback? Is he a scrambler? Is he an improviser? Okay. 0 rush TDs. Brock Purdy, he fits that glove too. 1 rush TD. As a matter of fact, Jared Goff got a rush TD last night, just wasn't counted.
Didn't Brock Purdy just come back from an Achilles or a knee injury?
Something like that, yeah. Sam Darnold.
Okay, well, Brock Purdy, before his injury, was really mobile. He would scramble around if those short to medium throws weren't there for him. He would scramble around. He would run up the field.
Sam
How
Darnold.
much running up the field is he going to do in the future now that he's had one of those injuries?
We'll see.
Probably a lot less.
Yeah, a lot less, which now you have to focus on your arm. And if your arm's not working, then and you're not able to just scramble or improvise or navigate a pocket well because of the knee injury, well, you're relying on the arm that may not be as good as what the other quarterbacks have always been without having to run. Aaron Rodgers.
That happened to Aaron Rodgers at the end of his career in Green Bay.
1 rush.
He had that Achilles issue, and he stopped leaning on that right or left leg so much, and he started throwing off platform, twisting his body to his throw to kind of minimize the force he would put on that ankle.
Sam Darnold, 0 rush TDs, 8 fumbles. Aaron Rodgers, 1 rush TD, 3 fumbles. Bo Nix, 4 rush TDs, 3 fumbles. Patrick Mahomes, 5 rush TDs, 3 fumbles. Caleb Williams, 3 rush TDs, 7 fumbles. CJ Stroud, 0 rush TDs, 1 fumble. Lamar Jackson, only 2 rush TDs, 7 fumbles. So the question is, okay, you're using your legs. You're not scoring that many touchdowns to affect the season with just 1, 2, or 3 rushing touchdowns. What are you doing through the air, though, when you're using your legs? Because what I see, if you take a look at the other side of this coin, which is sacks, let's go to sacks real quick. Geno Smith, mobile, used to be more mobile, 52 sacks this year. Cam Ward, one of the most mobile, 51 sacks. Justin Herbert, very mobile, 49 sacks. Drake May, one of the most mobile, 46 sacks. Trevor Lawrence, mobile, 37 sacks. Josh Allen, extremely mobile, 35 sacks. Patrick Mahomes, I don't need to say it, 34 sacks. Lamar Jackson, 33 sacks. Jared Goff, 10th in the league, 31 sacks. So all of these players, and Jalen Hurts is just 2 behind him, and the list goes on. All of these players that people are saying are much better than Jared Goff because they're mobile. Well, they're also taking a hell of a lot more sacks because they're scrambling around. And when you're scrambling around and your eyes aren't downfield, well, you're not able to do anything with the football to help you win football games. I'd rather have my guy
Not only that,
I'd rather have my guy take a sack.
sorry to cut you off.
No, you're fine. I'd rather have my guy take a sack and hang in there to the last moment, which Jared Goff does time and time again. He'll throw the ball. It'll be a beautiful completion or a touchdown, and he gets drilled. Why? Because he didn't want to take his eyes off the field. There's a difference, and there's levels to this game, whether it's an analytical perspective, understanding the game, understanding the position. And yeah, I may not know as much as the guys that are actually in the league. I may not know as much as some of the analysts that are up there with these 3- and 4-letter agencies. But I will tell you this: we've stuck with Jared Goff for a reason, and that's because I wouldn't want another quarterback that can throw the ball the way he does, that can decipher a defense the way he does, that can get the ball out quick like he does, and navigate an offense. He's been winning games consistently, yet people want to throw him under the bus. He didn't lose this game last night, by the way. He had one of his better games.
While you're going through all those players and the sacks and whatnot, did you happen to look at those interceptions too? because I probably assume that 90% of them have more interceptions than Jared Goff, and they also have more sacks. And those mobile quarterbacks, although they're scrambling to buy time to throw the ball down the field, what they're also doing is putting themselves off platform.
Yep.
So even if they are looking down the field, they don't have the proper footwork to get the ball anywhere down the field. That's why the defense always rolls towards the quarterbacks, and quarterbacks are always told never throw across your body while you're on the run. Because if you do, you don't have the arm power behind the throw, you don't have the accuracy on the throw, and 9 times out of 10, it's an interception. So, yes, the mobility is great to extend a drive. Yes, the mobility is great at clutching those key third down situations or fourth down situations to keep the drive going. But at that point, you're also sacrificing what the quarterback's in the game to do, which is throw the ball to the playmakers, avoid getting injured, and avoid your sacks.
Yeah, and so while you're saying that, I'll just tell you, Jared Goff with 5 interceptions and 31 sacks ranks below Carson Wentz, Tyrod Taylor, Matthew Stafford, C.J. Stroud, Caleb Williams, Brady Cook, Mac Jones, Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love, Lamar Jackson, Cam Ward, Brock Purdy, Marcus Mariota, Aaron Rodgers, Shedeur Sanders, Drake May, Daniel Jones, Jake Browning, Baker Mayfield, Bryce Young, Bo Nix, Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, Joe Flacco, Trevor Lawrence, Patrick Mahomes, J.J. McCarthy, Justin Herbert, Sam Darnold, Tua Tagovailoa, and Geno Smith. They all have more interceptions or
listed.
What's that?
I think you just listed every other starting quarterback in the league.
Almost. I mean, there's a couple that are ahead of them, like Jaden Daniels or Josh Johnson.
Jaden Daniels has played like 5 games all year.
Exactly. Phillip Rivers just played 2 games. Russell Wilson, I don't know how many games he played, 2, 6, I don't know. Max Brosmer. I mean, so I'm naming guys that aren't even playing. Kirk Cousins, Cooper Rush, Jackson Dart's played half a season. Tyler Shuck.
So the pros and cons of Jared Goff, the pros definitely outweigh the cons. And if a fan doesn't understand what the quarterback's primary job is, which is to take the snap and throw the ball. That is the quarterback's primary job as a passer.
Well, I got someone asking I got someone asking in the chat. What exactly, Ludell, do you want to see? Goff was the problem on the deciding play. Are you out of your mind? What are you talking about, dude?
So
how is he the problem?
I see this. Will, I see this all the time where they blaming Goff, and I understand why they're saying it. The situation is this offense this season has become so dependent on St. Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs. We need a big play, St. Brown or Jahmyr Gibbs. We need a first down, St. Brown or Jahmyr Gibbs.
But whose fault is that though?
It's become the norm.
Yeah, but whose fault is it? It's not Jared Goff. Here's the newsflash.
Through repetition. Through repetition.
It's who's calling the plays.
And I understand that, but when you have an offensive coordinator that's not in our system and then walks in and says, these are our 2 best players, these are where we're going with the ball every opportunity we can get, you develop that preconceived notion that that's the only place you're going to look. And that's where I lead to where this team had become too predictable.